February 11th Township Board meeting to order. Please stand for invocation and pledge.
May we humbly petition the guiding hand of divine providence to this assembly as also to our daily lives. May thy wisdom and compassion penetrate and purge our preoccupations to shine light and love to all. Amen.
Please call the roll, Clerk Manley.
Bellinger.
Here.
Dockett.
Think about it.
Can you hear us? Yes. Are you here? Here. Zelenak.
Present.
Manley here. Chockley.
Here.
And Otto and Chick are late with notice.
Okay, great. Now we have an opportunity for call to the public. So any member of the public who would like to come and speak to us tonight, please come on up to the microphone. Take it out, make sure it's turned on, and hold it up to your mouth. State your name and your address, and please direct your comments to me.
My name is Dale Brewer. I'm here tonight on behalf of the Connect 5 Veterans Foundation. We are a nonprofit 501c3 group who has a mission of healing and education for veterans and their families. I'd like to ask Chief Wagner to come forward if he would. I have a gift to give to him on behalf of our foundation for his assistance. In the last couple of years, he's been honored us with his services for both police and fire department when we brought the Wall That Heals in 2018. That particular one is a version of the Vietnam Memorial Wall in Washington. It was an 80% size wall. And we came with the group from Washington. We actually ended up with having the highest participation of any stop out of 35 stops in the United States. This last year we brought in a group, actually brought in 4 memorials called the Freedom is Never Free Traveling Memorials. We had a version of the World War II memorial, which was a 50% size, the same as Washington. We had a Korean War memorial, which was a exact replica of the one that's in Washington. We had the Michigan version of the Vietnam Wall, and then we had another group called Eyes of Freedom, which represented the Iraq conflict. That one was life-size oil paintings of 23 of their guys that were killed in 2 IED explosions in Iraq. Very, very moving display, as well as having a museum tent that had in excess of displays from World War I all the way through the Afghanistan war. So we had about 13 to 15,000 people go through last year as well. But with the chief's help, you've been able to help us to bring the escort, which starts down in Dundee and comes all the way up to the Livingston County Airport through. He's honored us by having members of the police department participate. And the thing that is probably the most outstanding that everyone really talks a lot about is the display at the 6 Mile Road where the flag is up and all of the firefighters and people are standing and saluting as it goes through. It's very, very moving. Just something, again, that it's very, very difficult to explain. I'd like to give Chief Wagner one of our small flag versions of the Freedom is Never Free Memorial. It has the number of participants that died during each of the conflicts on it, as well as just a little thought that freedom is never free. In addition, I have for you, Chief, a memorial pin. This is a star that represents 100 veterans, the personnel that were killed in World War II. There were 4,048 of these flags on the wall, and I'd like to give this you in recognition. And then one of our programs is recognizing and helping service dogs in everyday's life, which is called Emperor's Pride. And I'd like to give you one of those pins for your display. And again, I want to thank you so much for everything you do for us as veterans and for the community. Thank you.
Thank you. I can tell you it truly is our pleasure. A couple months before this happens, my officers and firefighters ask me, hey, are we going to do that thing again? And they look forward to it, and we really appreciate you allowing us to be part of it. So thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, does anyone else like to come up and share what their thoughts are this evening?
Hi, good evening.
Good evening.
Sam Iaquinto, 9876 Main Street. I wanted to share some thoughts on the North Village Park. Communities are rarely blessed to have an opportunity to recreate their downtown. We do have that opportunity here in Northfield Township. I would like the board to truly consider that if 90 homes is the correct option to go down for recreating a new downtown. On the revised plan that I did not see an entrance to Barker Road or a road going out to Barker. I did not see a trailway system to go around it either, and both those were requests from the Parks and Rec that we made to see if those could be added as amenities for the whole community. But again, please be very conscious, because 90 homes is not recreating our downtown. Also, the Parks and Rec has viewed the site and has many different thoughts and ideas for the area, for the park area. We are ready to ask the board to approve the funds to work with the planner to assist in taking it to the next level. Thank you.
Thank you. Good evening.
I'm Ann Hunter. Am I speaking into this? Okay. 8176 Fair Oaks Drive. I'd like to speak a little about the surroundings where the tank is proposed to be built. I'm going to try moving this a little over. The residential area on the west side of the plant.
You're going to.
You can't hear?
Yeah, take it out of there and hold it up to your mouth.
Okay.
There you go.
That better?
Yeah.
Okay. The residential area to the west of the site is a very quiet, wooded neighborhood that has homes of 2 or more acres of mature woodlands and views of marshlands. The 40-foot tank that would be built, it would be on the highest point of that area, and not counting the fill that's going to be brought in to raise the floor. So, and presumably it's to be painted blue. This will be visible for miles around. My concerns are the destruction of the trees that now limit the view of the one-story grit and screen building, the appearance of the fence that's part of the project, and about the noise from the operation of the tank during aeration and other processes. How is this going to affect the residents' enjoyment of their properties? If you decide to proceed with the tank, I hope you will at least consider putting it in the open area south of the plant, which borders only on general industrial properties. In the end, I want to ask, who wants to tear down 50-year-old woodlands to build a 4-story blue steel tank, basically? In your most recent master plan, you state that you want to preserve the agricultural and rural aspects of your community. quiet woodlands are a characteristic of the rural aspect. Wouldn't you like to go back to your constituents and say, we found a better way to do this with longer-term benefits and lower financial obligation? At the very least, I would like to ask, the study said that I read said that there was no consideration for screening, and I'm not sure how you screen a 4-story building tank, but I would definitely want to do something like that. Thank you for your consideration before you vote.
Okay, thank you.
I hope I was heard.
Hi, my name is Jessica Meissner. I also live on Fair Oak Drive. I wrote an email as well, so I'm not going to read all the points of it, but we were looking at the Tetra Tech reports. We understand that this tank has been under consideration for over 30 years. 30 years ago, it may have been the best option. We did not see anywhere in any of the engineering reports that other options for wet weather overflow equalization have been even looked at. So we'd like to know if they have been looked at. There are newer technologies out there that the EPA recommends. We would love to know that the engineering company had considered other options that may be more efficient, may be more cost effective, and could even increase some capacity on the plant as well. If there's options out there that increase the efficiency and capacity for the plant all year round, then those costs could be spread to new users as opposed to just passed on to existing users or the tax base as a whole, depending on the funding option. We are concerned with the clear need for the wastewater treatment plant, according to the studies, to expand. So we're concerned about this $4 million being spent without any research into the feasibility. If there hasn't been, there ought to be some research into the feasibility and applicability of newer technologies that have certainly come out in the last 30 years. So if there is such evaluation that's been done, we'd be very interested to see that and read about that. And again, I would second the comments made earlier that this is going to be a major change to a residential area. It's a 37-acre treatment facility. We would love it to be considered if a tank is needed. Some of the research we were reading was that there can be more benefits to putting the tank upstream because then it actually, in a wet weather event, reduces the impact on pipes and pumps and valves as the water goes through the main line. So we just like to know that all possibilities have been considered and would love to hear more about that. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else?
Mike Chicala, 7789 Sutton Road, South Lyon, Northfield Township. My understanding is that you're contemplating on doing this crazy deal downtown for residential development. And I guess couple things from a fiduciary standpoint, if you've had 2 independent appraisers give you valuation on the property, I don't know where the price came from. This is one that I had done on a client's piece of property, and this is the summary. And so from a fiduciary standpoint, you guys should have independent appraisers providing you with, and I'd use 2 because that's what I do with my clients, and get values on it so you're not giving it away, which I feel you are. I mean, I just sold it, one of my clients dies, just sold the house in Ann Arbor on a city lot for $800,000. And it's an old house that needed repairs.
Okay.
The other thing is, I don't know if you've done an environmental impact study on what this development is going to do. We're going to be adding a lot of hard surfaces to an area that doesn't have a lot of hard surfaces right now, which means it's going to put some pressure on the sanitary sewers as well as the
storms.
Well, anyway, so it's going to put an extreme amount of pressure on our sewer system. And one of the concerns I have is if the sewers can't handle the runoff off these hard surfaces, because that's what it's going to be. It's going to be rooftops and concrete, that it may provide or do some damage to the water quality that we have. And then the other thing that should be included in the environmental impact study should be traffic. Has anybody given any thought what's going to be happening to the traffic pattern, the amount of additional cars that's going to come to the area, and what's going to happen to that traffic? So you got the sanitary sewer system, you got the storm sewer system. I mean, and I'm assuming Tetra Tech has done some studies on, you know, what's going to happen, but the lake is a precious thing, and you're making a decision that's going to be there forever. This is something that's irrevocable that you're doing, and unless someone's going to tear it all down and start all over again. So I would hope that you're collecting all this data. The other thing is, the concern I would have is that none of this has been, last time I was here, I thought there was going to be a notice sent out and there was going to be some community input into all this, but I guess I was mistaken.
10 seconds, Mr. Chickella.
All right. So I guess I agree with Sam, which we don't often do, is, you know, what happened to the vision of vibrant downtown? I mean, that's always been the discussion when I was supervisor. It's been the discussion ongoing. I mean, where's this vibrant downtown?
Thank you, Mr. Chickella.
Okay, thank you.
Anyone else?
Madam Supervisor, if you'll indulge me in a second time, I'm here this time under my name, Dale Brewer, and I'm here to speak regarding the proposed retention site at the treatment plant. So a couple of the concerns that I have are the cost factor that's going to be imposed on the residents. You're looking at anywhere from $25 to $30 per resident based upon the numbers that were presented by Mr. Basinski and dividing them out amongst the current existing users at approximately 3,500. That's a pretty substantial increase for most of the people in this community to be able to absorb. I know that it's necessary. I know that it needs to go forward. And we can't go back and shame people that didn't have proper preparation in the past, but it's something that we need to consider. I'm also concerned with the 25% costs that the engineers have proposed for engineering, bonds, and the other attorney fees, et cetera. We just did a $6 million bond in Livingston County, came in at closer to 10 to 15%, including engineering fees. Right now, what you're looking at is the 3% for the bond council, which is about right, which is about $190,000. But you're looking at about $750,000 in engineering fees. I don't know how that breaks down. I don't know if you've looked at it. I don't know if that's a not to exceed figure that's going to come in less, but these are all numbers that I think need to be scrutinized. Secondly and thirdly, I don't know if it's possible, but if they could look at having the upfront costs that are for your bond at a lesser amount, with your larger amounts coming in at the 20-year end. By doing this, you'll have the opportunity for your expansion and growth factor that would come in, and it wouldn't impose quite the substantial amount that you were putting on the current residents that are in the system that are going to have to pay for this. And then fourth and last, this isn't the last increase that we're going to be looking at. You've got a capital improvement plan that has not been completed. It's not going to be completed until December. Once that comes in, you're going to have additional costs that are going to be incurred and have to be put into the budget, which you'll probably be looking at some additional costs. I don't know what they're going to be, but
10 seconds, Mr. Brewer.
I'm going to guess that you're going to be putting another $10 to $15 on there. So therefore, you're looking at some fairly sizable costs. Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
And please consider some of these facts as you consider this. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else?
Good evening. My name is Burke O'Berry. I live at 8176 Fair Oak Drive.
What's your name again, sir?
Burke, B-U-R-K-E, O'Berry.
O'Berry. Burke O'Berry. Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Here to speak a little bit about the wet water storage tank also. I guess I'd like to start with just a couple sentences from Tetra Tech's March 2016 preliminary design report. As early as 1988, the township evaluated construction of a wet water storage tank to manage the wet weather flow. However, the wet water storage tank was never constructed. Tonight on the agenda is discussing funding for a 32-year-old wet weather event solution. In 1988, Microsoft had only been out for about 3 years. Elon Musk, the founder of Tesla and SpaceX, was 17 years old, and the first iPhone release would be another 19 years. I'd like to ask, it's 32 years later, is this idea the best wastewater solution we can come up with? With little help from Google and Microsoft and very minimal research, because I'm far from an engineer, I found that there are wastewater treatment plants out there reclaiming nitrogen and phosphorus and selling it for fertilizer. Many wastewater treatment plants produce electricity. Some even produce enough to run the plant and have excess. There are many, many plants out there that are using today's technology for cleaner, greener, and more cost-efficient ways to treat wastewater. We have a world-class university in one of the most educated cities in America, less than 15 miles from here. Maybe a big, ugly storage tank was the best solution in 1988, but it's 2020 now. And I'd like to think in 1988, the thought was to build a tank and in the future address concerns as they arise. That future is now. And yet the best idea we're discussing tonight is to build a 1.7 million gallon tank to store untreated wastewater when it rains. And it's still a 32-year-old solution. Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else? Okay.
Hi, I'm Jack Sechrist. I live on Nala Road. I'm here actually reading a letter from Jenny Olney, who lives on Lakewood Court, just down Barker Road, within walking distance of downtown. This is about the North Village area. To the Board of Trustees, I've asked Mr. Jack Sechrist to read this letter on my behalf as I'm unable to attend tonight's meeting. 4.5 years ago, I responded to a call to the public on the township website to join the Downtown Development Group. When I spoke with then Township Manager Mr. Howard Fink, I asked him rather curtly, "What downtown do you speak of?" He then informed me that the township had purchased 23 acres of land right on Main Street and was looking for public input on how to best develop it. Up until that time, I was often critical of all the things Whitmore Lake lacked, but decided it was time to step up and in and do something to affect the change I wished to see. I joined the Downtown Development Group in April of 2016 and am now a member of the DDA, Downtown Development Authority, and the North Village Subcommittee. And I would say as an aside, I'm also on all of those things as well. For the past 4.5 years, I have dedicated my time with one goal in mind: to see sensible, quality development on that 23 acres that would serve as a catalyst to effect positive change in Whitmore Lake. Change that the town could be proud of, that would serve our community, provide public amenities, and establish new residential development in the hopes of bringing new businesses to town and attracting new families to the community to populate our public schools. I have a family of my own and proudly send our oldest to Whitmore Lake Elementary School and the others to a daycare in town. Every meeting I've attended over the past 4.5 years, I've had to explain to my daughters that Mommy can't put you to bed tonight because I'm trying to create a better town for you. I've committed myself to this process, which is why I'm writing to you today. Tonight's vote is monumental for me, the dedicated group of individuals that I've tirelessly worked alongside, and ultimately for the town. I am confident in the process we've engaged the community in, and Livonia Builders as a trusted, reliable, quality developer who has put forth a fair and honest proposal. I strongly urge you to vote yes to approve the sale of a portion of the North Village to Livonia Builders. Thank you for your time, Jenny Olney. And I would add, in addition to that, a lot of us have put, and we've worked very hard to advance this process to where it is today. The board has before it the opportunity to move Whitmore Lake in the direction of being a vibrant community that we can all be proud of. I hope that you'll seize that opportunity. Thanks.
Thank you. Anyone else?
Hi, Marissa Prizden, 32 Shum Drive. I want to begin by thanking the board for taking on such a robust agenda this evening. You certainly have your work cut out for you. I hope that the sale of 75 Barker is ready for your consideration. I know there are investors who are eager to invest in our community who have attended several meetings only to have it tabled. So I really hope that today you're ready to show them something. Additionally, I'm thrilled to see forward movement on the issues with the sewers. I've been waiting pretty patiently to see something on the agenda about it, so I'm pleased to see it's on there, and I trust the board to make good decisions with the information that they have. If the community thinks that you need to do more research and you tell us that you have, I think that that's a perfectly acceptable response. Sometimes you just gotta take the roast out of the oven. I mean, we can't always make perfect decisions. It seems like we're always coming back, and at the last minute, everybody wants more information. Have you considered this? Have you considered that? Where at the last meeting, there were 2 people here, not a room full. So we're gonna come in at the last minute and kind of throw wrenches into the mix. I believe that you've done your due diligence with all of the issues on the agenda this evening, except for 75 Barker. I guess we'll see. Next, I'd like to read a statement prepared by a fellow citizen who was unable to attend. It's brief, and I'm going to read it quickly. It's from L.J. Walter III at 412 East Shore Drive. I wanted to express my disappointment in the vote last meeting regarding prohibiting sharing time during the meeting. I respect all the reasons given. However, in the event an issue should arise that might lend itself to some degree of thoughtful conversation, you could imagine that someone might have a point that simply couldn't be made in 3 minutes. It's understood that there are alternatives. Presumably, I could get through the first 3 minutes and making a 5-minute point. Then I could give my records to someone who agrees with me, and they could spend 2 minutes finishing what I was saying. Or also, I could presumably start making my point, then wait 2 to 3 hours and make the remainder of it at the end of the meeting. You could imagine, though, that my point would be more compelling and effective if I were simply to borrow 2 minutes from a like-minded individual and simply get through it all at once. This is generally the reason that this practice has been common in parliamentary procedure throughout the ages. I do not currently have any cause for which I need extra time, but if one should arise, as did last year, it would be nice to be able to have adequate time to make my point if someone were generous enough to lend me their time, as Marissa is kindly doing this evening while I recover at home. I do hope you all are well. Has my timer dinged yet?
You got 30 seconds.
I just wanted to know about the website. If somebody could respond to anything that's going on with that. It was on the agenda. You guys said you were going to maybe look at some other solutions, and I think a lot of citizens in town have some really good ideas about what would go on there. Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
Don't turn it off? You want to just take it so I don't have to fumble with it?
Okay. Anybody else?
I mean, this is awkward. You stand up here and everybody's watching. There you go.
Hello.
Okay.
Brian Trim at 254 Lakeview Avenue here in Horseshoe Lake, which is a neighboring quasi-municipality here within Northfield Township in the state of Michigan. Several of our residents asked me to come and speak today as a fellow concerned resident who's very enthusiastic about the possibility for the North Village. I've been asked to comment here on this proposal before Northfield Township Board tonight due to my background of study at the University of Michigan in urban planning and design and economics with particular focus on sustainability, and my projects over many years in historic renovation, urban planning, design, and mixed-use responsible development. The proposed approval of the sale of property beside the Whitmore Lake Post Office for this particular private development plan in Northfield Township's North Village, the 90 individual residential surface lot homes on 80 of the 23 available acres there, up against the expressway without any meaningful acoustic barrier will, in my and others' opinion, if it is passed tonight, have permanent negative implications for what could otherwise become a vibrant and viable urban renewal plan for downtown Whitmore Lake, and as a result, its environs. Further, as this is the last remaining available site for responsible development that could create a magnet for tourism in the downtown corridor along its lakeshore, if properly developed, it is critical that any development on this 23-acre parcel be very well thought out and not disposed of at the first opportunity by the board simply to get something there on the site, when some further investigation of different opportunities could mean many times over a much better economic result and stimulus for its downtown corridor and surrounding area if properly developed. On this last remaining site could exponentially contribute to an increased quality of life for the residents and future of Whitmore Lake. What I am respectfully asking is that the township table tonight's vote, and in the interest of doing further investigation as to other options that are available for this particular site. What we have is a difficult situation for the sustainability of long-term cultural vitality and financial health of the township.
10 seconds, Mr. Trim. Sorry.
Yeah, well,
sorry.
This current plan would be fine elsewhere within the township. On this particular site, though, there are many other options that are available if we took time to investigate them further.
Thank you, Mr. Trim. Anyone else like to come up?
Scott Chisholm, 8006 Lakeshore, over on the Horseshoe Lake. I'd pretty much like to echo what Brian was saying, Mr. Trim, the last speaker. It seems like using 80% of this property for residential is a waste in a lot of ways. We've got other places homes can go in this township. I know sometimes it's hard to get people to build there, but just because that's the case doesn't mean that we should use 80% of this nice parkland or potential park area as residential. Some of it maybe that could work. Maybe a little more commercial than there is, currently in this plan, so that we can get some money in here, get some attractions, get some people coming through, and we need people to visit this township and spend their money here. It's the only way we're going to revitalize this thing, and I know that's maybe part of the idea here, but I don't think 5 acres is not enough to do a destination, a place where people will come just for the heck of it. So I think this should be rethought a little bit and see if we could maybe come up with a little bit better plan. That's about all I've got. Thanks.
Okay, thank you. Anyone else?
Before I begin. Faith Wheeler, 371 Grove Street on Horseshoe Lake. I have been a resident here forever, and probably along with Docket here. And I remember when this was a very ongoing, industrious town, okay? And our attraction was for recreation. We had 4 beaches, we had people coming and going winter and summer, and we had a very good support to the different kinds of businesses we had in town at that time. But every year, it seems like when we had an opportunity for a piece of property, it went for commercial. It went for commercial, and I could name 4 of them, but I don't have to go through all of that. I cannot understand, when this was proposed to the community, it was proposed as a park. I heard undercurrent going on, oh no, they're gonna make commercial up there. They said it's gonna be a park, so I wasn't believing that. I voted for it to be a park. It's not going to be a park. When you take away all the property that you're going to use, you're going to leave us with a piece of property about the size of 2 lots that you could put a house on that's going to be used by the people in those apartments. It's going to be their front yard, and we're going to be paying again to develop it. That does not make sense. We'll be paying again to develop the beach, which they're going to use. I cannot see what they were saying before of putting houses up there that are going to be along the expressway. Who is going to want to live in them with that noise? It's only going to be people, and I heard also, and I want you to answer me this, I want to know why you're not going to the community since you're having a disagreement between you whether what's pro and what's con. Go to the community and ask them what they want. Or else get a petition up and go around and let them tell you what they want. Because everything I'm hearing is not to the pro for any kind of industry up there at all, commercial. And I guess that's what I'm going to say. We need to find out why you're doing this. It's rush, 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 and it's a mistake. Once it's done, they're right. There's no other place on the lake that you're going to be able to have the recreation that you could have there. If you put in your head to develop that as a recreational place for the Northfield Township, it's not just the people on Main Street. It's not just the businesses on Main Street. This is going to be something for everybody to use and enjoy. And you could develop that to look like something like Independence Lake over there with all kinds of functions going on, a band cove or whatever they want to call it, for the school, a place for people to go and have family picnics, reunions. You could charge for that. Okay, there's ways to make money on that too. You could have a place for a sprinkling system for little kids. There's all kinds of ideas and development that could be done if you put your mind to it and stop thinking, we've got to get something in there right away so we can have a little jingle in our pockets.
10
That's not
seconds,
going to put
Ms.
no
Wheeler.
jingle in your pockets 10 years from now. And I also want to know, because I was told when the last meeting, when you approved it, that it wasn't going to be the low income. It was going to be the other developer. And since then, I've heard it is going to be the low income. So I don't know whose bid you took.
Thank you, Ms. Wheeler.
Okay.
3 minutes are up.
Hello, Tim Offerly, 8105 Lakeshore Road. I'd like to thank the board for taking the
What's
time.
your last name again, sir?
Offerly, O-F-F-E-R-L-E. Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Yes. So I was struck by a video that recently was circulated around about HGTV, looking to get Whitmore Lake and try to attract them to come and make over our hometown. And I think that parcel is a great opportunity for someone to come in and look at it. I'm hoping HGTV will accept us, or maybe it will attract some more attention to bring other ideas for the parcel. The one you picked is probably the best out of the two, and so it made sense to go forward. But I think it might be worth letting the HGTV and getting some more publicity to see if we can bring in some other ideas. I myself and my partner have ridden our bikes from Horseshoe around to Captain Joe's, around the lake. It's a great place to be. It's a great beach. There was a boat show there this summer that was really a fun place, and I think that can grow and is a good use of that park. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else? Okay. Well, seeing no one, thank you all for your comments tonight. Do we have any board members who would like to respond to anything? Ms. Bellinger?
First off, in order, I want to thank Dale Brewer for his work. I mean, for what he does for the veterans and recognizing the veterans, there's really no words really to express how much that touches me and how very important that is. Thank you, Dale. Okay. Regarding the issues mentioned, I want to go right to North Village since that was talked about quite a bit. The residential development is in the back section. The developer does believe that the sound from the road noise won't be a concern. That's, if he wants to develop there, that's the prerogative. 6.5 acres approximately is what's slated for the park. And that section goes beyond the post office over towards that wetland area near the bait shop and so forth, and back up to the shore. It's about 6.5 acres. So that will be remaining township property, along with, I guess, a couple of commercial sections too. So the developer is only interested in doing residential and is looking at single-family homes. I have some questions for him. I'd like to know if he can offer not only 2-story but single-story houses for the elderly that don't really want to contend with stairs. So I have some questions on that. The details regarding North Village, there is roads. I know on that map it didn't show, but there's access planning to be 2 of them off of Main Street and 1 on Barker. So those are in the design, and also connectivity to the trails is something that Parks and Rec is adamant about, and the developer promises that to be in there, and that will be in any contract with any developer, this connectivity. The website, we wanted to review some other options and also continue with a website that in-house can be modified, as opposed to spending a lot of money and needing the skills of an expert all the time if we needed some minor changes. So we wanted to reevaluate that, and it was suggested that take what we have and we could certainly reorganize it, and suggestions are, please, they're very welcome. Thank you for attending tonight, and thank you for the concern on the wastewater basin. I'll let the experts speak on that. And thank you very much for coming out.
Mr. Dockett.
I'm going to speak about the park also because it seems like a lot of interest. I don't see, I'm against doing anything with the park other than having a park. I think we should keep it all. That's so I don't believe we should sell any property like that belongs to the township. Just like 75 Barker, I don't believe we should sell. These little outlots that maybe it's next door to a neighbor, 30-foot lot or something, we can give it away as far as I'm concerned, put it back on this, because it's worthless except for the person who lives next door. 90 lots, 90 tiny lots on this property. What kind of people are going to want to live there? I heard that tonight, and that's my question. Who's going to want to live there? I have the pawn shop. I don't know, probably 1,000 foot from the expressway. I hear it in the summertime when my window open. It is definitely so. I don't know who's going to want to live there. I've asked because I'm against doing anything with it. I've asked on this board several times about ingress and egress. I'm going to mention it because Ton just said there's 5.5 acres left. There's 3 ingress and egress driveways. None of us know what that's going to be. I've asked the question, no one's ever answered it. Why are we building roads to get into this guy's project, and it's coming out of our 5 acres that's what I suspect, but nobody wants to answer that question. So it's not going to be, we're not going to have 5.5 acres there. Plus we're going to be giving them some property just by where Pete Kessler's house used to be. They're going to have 3 ingress and egresses. We need the county to come there and give the curb cut. That's the only way we're going to find out how much property we're going to lose off in the 5 acres. Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else? No? Ms. Otto?
Yeah, I wanted to thank everybody for coming out and appreciate everybody's comments. I wanted to first speak to the equalization basin, and I appreciate Jessica and Ann and Burke, your email that we received today. One of the links in your email did speak very factually about using a basin or a storage basin. as a proposed means of securing wet water management. The one thing that you spoke of is comparing it to Google and Microsoft comparison. The technology industry is only there for 1 to 2 years before they have new product, and it's there to change the product over and over again. The marketability is there. A wastewater management treatment plant is there, what, 100 years, Dan? It's supposed to be there for 100 years. So you're not going to have the technology that comes into play all the time. It's supposed to last forever. That's the difference. We have looked at this for many years. I've been on the board for 2 terms, and this has been on our board for each term, reviewing this, going over this, and we have done a lot of due diligence on this. The other thing I wanted to talk about was North Village. In our Township Focus magazine that we get from the Michigan Association for Township Association, there was a little tiny article in there on Hamburg in regards to their cottage living community. And they spoke of, even though it is a small lot with with homes on them, they said that they target the millennials and the retirement generation buying these homes because it brings community focus. Visioning centers, visioning sessions that we had on this property, we've had 4. 2 for the downtown, which included North Village, and 2 for North Village specifically. And we've been working on this for 5 years. This isn't something that we've thought about just this year. This has been going on for a long time. Even before this board even came into existence, it was the previous board that started the whole ball rolling. The use of the park now, as Tawn said, is on 6.5 acres. That's really all that's being used today. The whole park, the whole 23 acres is not being used, just those 6.5 acres for 4th of July fireworks, for any events, trunk or treat. It's just that area that's being used. To address low income, it isn't the low income. It is the other single family homes that we're putting in. And they're anywhere between 200 to 250,000. So HDTV, Tim, thank you for bringing that up. I was one of the participants on it. I wanted to thank Michelle Petoskey for pushing everybody along to get this done. It was done within a 2-week time frame, and it was done at no cost to this community or this township. Everybody that participated in it volunteered their time, their energy, and their expertise to get this video done. The park was shown in the video. The part of the park was shown in the video, and it was mentioned that we could have a pier, a pavilion, or something even for children to play in. So we set this, we planted the seed, and we just hope that they will pick us. In Michigan, there were, at the time that we submitted, there was over 5 submissions from Michigan. There were probably over 50 right now that I could count. So everybody keep it in your prayers.
Thank you. Ms. Manley.
Just to thank everybody for coming out, and the questions on the wastewater treatment plant, I'm hoping that between Mr. Willis and Tetra Tech, we can get some of those answered for you, because they were good and valid questions. As far as Parks and Rec having ideas for the North Village, I hope that we get those soon. Haven't heard of anything, so I'm hoping that Parks and Rec will give us some kind of presentation or notes or something like that coming up. And that's it.
Thank you. Anybody else? Ms. Selnock, go ahead.
First of all, I would like to thank Dale Brewer for all his work and effort that he does, and thank him for recognizing our chief and our departments and police and fire. That was very nice to hear and a good way to start our meeting off, so thank you very much for that and bringing that to our attention. As far as the park, we had a plan. It was the synthesis plan. I have it here. And I have the current plan. And it looks nothing like the synthesis plan. In fact, the last scoring by the committee gave it a D+. That's not good enough in my books. I never came home from school with a D+, so I don't know what my parents would have done, but it would not have been good enough. And I don't think it's good enough. As people said, this will define our community forever. Not 10 years, not 20, not 30, forever. Generations to come that we might not even know about, and certainly won't know about. And, you know, there's a good point. How did we determine the price? I think the developer told us the price. I don't think that's good business. I think we need to go out and have an appraisal. And if we did, then why is it not in our package? Did we have an official appraisal or a free appraisal? I think we do need to know what the impact will be on our environment of the lake, well, Whitmore Lake, with the runoff. What's going to be the impact? Certainly when you get into it, we'll do a traffic. But my real thought is it didn't follow the plan. Many people on this board said they would follow the master plan. The synthesis plan is in the master plan, and it's nowhere close. That is my opinion. As far as the website, Emily Hossis, the deputy treasurer, and myself, after the Tuesday meeting, met and went through a lot of websites and our own website. We had a meeting scheduled with Mr. Ains last Wednesday, but it's been moved to this Wednesday. So we have some thoughts, and we think that it might be possible to keep our website and rearrange it and make it more usable than it currently is. So we looked at that. As far as the sewer, yeah, I think Mr. Brewer brought up some really good points about certainly the financing that I think we need to take under consideration, maybe so that it may be helpful to our residents. And I'd like to see, you know, if all the options that were discussed as far as getting us to this point. I know we've been talking about it a while, but it's always been the basin. I do have some questions when we get there on the infiltration and what was done and what was looked at in regards to that. And I do have more talks, as I was in communication with Eagle today, which now they call them, which used to be the MDEQ, but they're now Eagle. As far as, you know, communication, we can look and say, oh, you know, we had a public hearing on the park, you should have been there. Why weren't you there? Why weren't you paying attention? This is going to define you. But maybe as board members, when we come across events that will define the township forever, we could be proactive. Could send out a postcard and say, come to the public hearing at the Planning Commission. And you can say, oh, we shouldn't have to do that. The people should pay attention. You know, you can point at them, and there's three fingers pointing at us. And I think we need to do a better job, especially when we come to decisions that will define the township forever. Sewer basin. We actually have an ordinance, if we go out and borrow the money, that we will have to let the people know. Why not when we purchase property at the lake, or we're going to sell property, that we don't let people know that? Of major dollars. We're not talking, you know, we bought a lot for $500 or $5,000. We're talking, we bought something for $330,000. We're going to sell something for $765,000. So I think we as a board, from everything that's going on, my lesson is we need to do a better job. Let's spend a little money, communicate it. If people don't show up, I have met so many people over the last 2 weeks and said, hey, we're selling a good majority of the lake property. They're like, I didn't know. So should I say, well, shame on you? Or should I say, well, shame on me for not doing a better job of letting people know? So that's my comments. Thank you.
Ms. Chick.
I appreciate the questions about whether or not we had done due diligence on either of those two issues, and Marissa's comment that she had faith that we did. I just wanted to show you real quickly. These are all the studies we've done on the wastewater treatment plant, and on top of presentations that we've had and continuing information that comes in. This is the study on the North Village plan. This is the study on the Downtown Strategic Action Plan, done with community participation. This is Northfield Township Master Plan, which includes both of these studies. And Lenore and I have talked about, our interpretation of the synthesis plan, which she presented. And it's part of the master plan. Master plan is a vision. And the concept plan, or the synthesis plan for North Village Master Plan, was a vision as well. It is all changeable. Once it actually gets to the point, if it does, to the Planning Commission, it's going to change a little bit again. And as far as the grading on it, the grading was to choose between two of the options, which one was the better. We knew when we got the initial plan, it was never going to be the final plan. That's how the process goes. It's always going to be in a state of flux until we get to the point where there's a conditional use request and a site plan. And then as far as the traffic study, the environmental impact study, that is all done before anybody gets an approval to go forward. So those things will all be done. And I want to thank Dale as well. Thank you so much. That was very touching what you did, and thank you, Chief, for your participation, and the police and the fire department as well. So I just want people to be assured that we've been working on this for a very long time. We have all the information we feel that we need right now to discuss it, and we're always willing to listen to any other suggestions that come forward. That's all I have. Thank you.
Thank you. I won't add to any of that, so we can get moving on to the business of the evening.
So do we need to approve the agenda as provided?
Yeah, may I say one thing, though? Just a reminder, your taxes are due on February 14th without penalty and interest. I meant to say that, so...
That's an important note.
No, I appreciate that. And then with no penalty and interest, and we'll take them up to March 2nd, because it's a leap year, funny year, so we actually take them to March. But March 14th, please drop them off.
Okay. March or February?
Oh, February. Oh, jeez.
February 14th.
Thank you. February, this Friday, and we have a 24-hour drop box. So
is that Valentine's Day?
Huh?
Is that
yes,
Valentine's Day?
Happy Valentine's Day. Your taxes are always due on February 14th.
Right. I'd like to make a motion.
Thank you.
I'd like to make a motion to adopt the consent agenda as distributed.
Support.
Motion by Chockley.
Wait. Should we adopt the balance of the agenda first?
Well, it's not listed there, but we're going to do the consent agenda first.
Consent agenda, Wayne.
Right.
I gotta know what we're talking about.
We just made a motion to adopt the consent agenda as distributed. Does anyone need anything pulled out of the consent agenda?
Yes.
Read them off. Anybody down there have anything they want pulled out?
Go ahead. I asked a question, somebody might be interested. On the front page of the Jim Cox's report, Dana's report. I was confused. It says a garbage truck slid off the drive into the ditch. I wondered where, so he said it was a drive going into their place. So that explained that to me. And on the next page was, I asked him about, I didn't know what Eagle was.
Do you want to mention the type?
Or is that how you say it? Eagle?
That's how a lot of people say it. Yeah.
Some say Eagle, because there's no A, but many people say Eagle.
Okay. I wanted that explained to me, so that's
On that same document, there is I asked Dan, he said there's a typo on that same document. The last two,
You're correct, there is a typo.
where it says 32 million gallons and 22 million gallons, it's on the back of the very last two things on the second page. Those should be swapped.
Yep.
So 22 applies for 2019 and 32 applies to 2020.
I have one quick question on the
Can't go, okay.
number 8.
Number 8.
Number 8.
You ready?
No.
Number 8.
Can we stay on this, Madam Chair, can we just stay on the wastewater treatment plant first? I got one.
Yeah, let's finish this one up. What's the issue?
So I just, Mr. Willis asked about a sewer hookup. I take it that Mr. Ains and Mr. Fink are working on that to decide the legal implications?
My personal opinion is there's a 3-year statute of limitations and we should charge that far back, but that's up to our attorney.
Right, is it just 3 years? I thought it was more.
I think it's 3 years.
Okay, well anyway. So I would hope that Mr. Ains has brought that to the attention of Mr. Fink on that.
Yeah.
That was my comment.
Okay, any more on the wastewater treatment plant? No?
Yeah.
Okay.
The hookup.
The hookup.
The hookup is like what?
Yeah. Eons ago.
Quite a bit.
Yeah, 6,000.
All right.
6,200.
62.
What else do you have, Mr. Dockett?
I have on the number 8.
Number 8.
Yeah.
Okay, number 8.
And that is...
I believe that's the finance and fund
That's
balance
the
reports.
financing. I just want to ask the third one down, cable TV. I've been reading in the books, in the magazines, that only 75% of the people have cable TV now, and more, they're just dropping off unbelievably fast. And we get $100,000 a year from cable. And I'm wondering if we've seen any problem with this really going downhill.
I'm not noticing anything. I mean, we've collected over half of it, and we're halfway through the year.
Right. My thought is, unfortunately, I don't have any option. I can't even do cable and my internet. I can't get internet. So,
okay, well, I was surprised
so I'm thinking we might be safe as a township on that one.
Okay,
unfortunately.
Okay. Are you done, Mr. Dockett?
Yes.
Okay. Anyone else need anything pulled? Okay. We have.
I just had a question.
Okay.
And this is not to do with...
Is it related to wastewater treatment?
No, it's not related to wastewater.
Okay.
But Mr. Willis can go.
Yeah, if you want
to keep consistent with the topic.
We were talking about new technology for wastewater. We've just...
No, I'm not.
Wait.
I'm sorry.
Yes, go ahead,
Did
Mr.
you okay for me to go?
Willis? Yes.
We've been talking about new technology for wastewater. We've just spent $75,000 to upgrade our SCADA system on the pump stations so they're more reliable, so we get alarms and it controls the system and everything. That's new technology there. And this coming weeks, we're going out for bids for new aeration blowers. Our technology for the aeration blowers is 50 years old, and we have oversized blowers that we can't change and can't save any energy with, and we're going to a new type of blower that we can control how much air we put into the blowers based on a dissolved oxygen concentration. So that should save us enough in energy costs to pay for a $200,000 project in 8 years, just in energy alone. So that's coming up next month.
Great, thank you.
And unrelated technology, we have a Main Street pump station which has 50-year-old valves in it, and we tried to close a valve to repair a pump and it would not move. So we're going to spend, in the coming week, we ordered $6,000 worth of valves. So that's coming. It won't be in this report, but I wanted to let you know that we're going ahead and order them to get them coming, and we'll have to replace those coming up in the next month to get that back online. We're down to one pump out of the two right now. So
okay.
That's it.
Thank you. Ms. Otto.
I just had a question in regards to the proposed budget schedule for 2021. I did see that there were, after each budget review by the Township Board, that there was a meeting with controller, manager, supervisor, and treasurer. I did not know that the treasurer was involved in it, in the administrative meetings. I would also include that probably any board member would want to participate, as long as there's not three board members involved in it.
Four.
Four.
Yeah, you can drop in, sure.
More than three. Let's just put it that way.
I think Ms. Chick has joined us in the past.
Yep. Okay. Anything else?
That was the only comment.
Okay, thank you very much. Okay, so we do have the motion to adopt the consent agenda as distributed.
Support.
With the support by
since Mr. Lippen's out here, I'd like to pull just the annual report of activities and just see if he has any additional comments or anything on that for the 2019 annual report of activities. So you gave us a summary, and then you gave us what you proposed work plan.
Do you have any questions?
I just, so on the proposed work plan, how does that proceed? Like, how does the zoning ordinance get done? Meaning, is that the planning commission and you review which ones should be updated, and then you determine a list?
So the zoning ordinance is work that's ongoing, and per the state statute, it's required to be worked on by planning commission, and they'll hold a public hearing, which will be adopted by the board. Other items on the proposed work plan would require a board authorization and the manager to essentially ask us to put together a proposal for board authorization to work on.
Okay, thanks.
Yep.
Thank you. Okay, all in favor of adopting the consent agenda as distributed, say aye. Aye. Anyone opposed? Okay, thank you, that passes 7-0. I will mention though, since we have an announcement opportunity here, the Board of Review is going to be meeting on March 10th from 9 until 5, and March 12th from 1 until 9. So if anyone has any issues with their assessment, feel free to make an appointment with our township assessor, and you can come in and appeal your taxes if you have any reason to do so. There also will be a special meeting of the Northfield Township Board for questions and answers on the 25th. So we'll be here at 6 o'clock, and anyone who would like to come in, bring your questions, and as many of the board members as can get here will be here, and we'll have an informal time of just seeing if we can answer your questions. So we're not going to sit across this rail, and we'll sit all together, and it really worked well last time that we did it. So those are the two announcements. Okay, moving on, I'd like to make a motion to approve the payment of the open bills with the expected check run date of 2/12/2020 for a total of $176,730.63 from all funds in the Municipal Investment Fund account.
Support.
Motion by Chockley, support by Chick. Do we have any discussion of this? Okay. All in favor say aye. Aye. Anyone opposed?
Wait a minute, what are we doing?
We're on agenda item number 1, open bills.
Yeah. I don't like, I'm not in favor of paying for the SIMCOG.
Okay.
$12,223.
I would like to remove that as well.
And
is that the only one that you're talking about?
Well, that's the one I'm talking about, but I'd like to mention that
okay.
On page 2, at the top of the page, planning and zoning last month, $20,000 we paid for planning and zoning last month.
Okay.
This is outrageous.
Yeah, we're in the open bills. Okay, so Ms. Bellinger and Mr. Dockett do not want to pay SEMCOG. You'll have to make
I
a
move
motion.
to remove SEMCOG from the, for a total of $1,223 from the open bills.
Support.
Okay, a motion by Bellinger and support by Dockett to not pay the SEMCOG membership dues for 2019. Roll call vote, please.
Chockley.
No, I mean.
Otto.
No.
Manley. No. Bellinger.
Yes.
Chick.
No.
Dockett.
Yes.
Zelenak.
No.
Okay, that motion failed. Okay, so we have a motion by Chick with support. Motion by Chockley with support by Chick to pay the open bills.
The Tetra Tech bill was $116,634 last month.
Okay, so we're going to have a vote, roll call vote on the open bills.
Chick.
Yes.
Bellinger.
No.
Dockett.
No.
Manley. Yes. Otto.
Yes.
Chockley.
Yes.
Zelenak.
Yes.
Thank you, that passes 5-2. Okay, I'd like to make a motion to adopt the contract with the People's Express for January 1st through December 31st, 2020, and to authorize the Township Supervisor and Manager to sign the agreement pending attorney approval.
I'll support.
Motion by Chockley, support by Chick. Do we have discussion?
We do.
Go ahead.
As we know, every year this comes up, and I would like the township to discontinue giving $10,000 of general fund taxpayer money to People's Express. So the tax-exempt parcels or properties that People's Express has in the township, they do not contribute to our police department. They do not contribute to our fire department. I don't think they contribute to our schools. I don't know for sure, but I don't think they pay taxes for schools either, because it's a tax-exempt parcel. They do not help to fund our township infrastructure or contribute to the operating costs of our township. So I kind of get the feeling that People's Express kind of owes the community. I mean, because they're not contributing to the services that they benefit from. They benefit from the fire department, that the taxpayers contribute, that taxpayers fund. They benefit from our police department, that's the taxpayers fund. I kind of think, how about if People's Express would say, thank you, Northfield taxpayers, for permitting us to have our hub here. And what if they said, thank you, Northfield taxpayers, because of this, we're going to provide discount services for your residents as a way of saying thank you. I mean, the tax burden remains with the taxpayers. They could potentially, why not? Why not suggest that instead of us handing them $10,000 of taxpayer money? What if we suggest that they provide this kind of services because they are in our community and they're not contributing to the tax base, which they do, like I said, benefit from the services that the taxpayers do pay for, such as police, fire, schools, and so forth. It would really be nice if they would show their appreciation to the community. I believe they have at least 2, maybe 3 parcels here that we could be generating revenue from. So what if they actually said, you know, thank you, and we're going to give Northfield residents a break? That's my thoughts on this.
Okay. Does anyone have a different opinion? You have the same opinion or a different opinion, Mr. Dockett?
I have my own opinion.
Okay.
My own opinion is, I have a friend who called me and told me that I called the bus to go to the Veterans Hospital, and they told him he had to call 24 hours in advance, and that it would be $7 both, $7 in and $7 back, which was $14. I'd like to know if that's fact or not. Do you know how, maybe someone can speak to, do you have to call 24 hours in advance? And according to this on page 2, the bottom of the page says trips, it says that it starts out a little bit higher than that, and it says what they are, $2, so on and so forth for locals. But then it says trips going to Ann Arbor, Ypsilanti area, cost township residents between $5 and $7 each. Doesn't say anything about a break for handicap or anything like that. So is that what it costs somebody in a wheelchair to go from Whitmore Lake to the VA hospital? $14. That's my question. So, was you gonna make a motion or not?
The motion was made.
We have a motion. We also have Miss Robinson out there, who's also on the board on People's Express, but I can answer it if it's okay, being a board member, because I am a board member of People's Express as well as a board member of the township. Yes, you are correct. It's 5 to 7 each way, depending on where you're going, and correct. And we do ask that you give even more sometimes, because actually we can be very, very, very busy, and we have to dispatch and coordinate our rides to make sure we can accommodate everybody. So the earlier you call, the better opportunity you will have, because we do service other communities as well as Northfield Township, and as you can see from our ride report, our rides have increased substantially. So we are busy people. Okay. And
I would like to know, like when they call and they do something they take their seniors somewhere, and they rent the bus, and we pay for it. The township pays for the
community center.
The community center does
community
that.
Center. Do they count, like when they load up a bus, the community center? We fund the community center.
No. They don't. I mean, you do, but we don't. We don't count that as rides towards this. This doesn't go towards the rider.
That was my question.
This is rides that we have to actually count.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Okay. This is the same contract that we've had year after year after year, correct?
I think we've had it for 5 years, haven't we?
Yeah. Okay.
We did it in the previous term.
Except they now own 2 more pieces of property that they're not paying tax on. So now they got 3 buildings that they're not paying.
But that's not People's Express.
Okay.
That's Northfield Human Services.
Ms. Chick had her hand up.
Everybody, in the past I've supported this, I will support this again, but we provide this, People's Express provides this service to the most needy people in our township. They're seniors, they're handicaps, they're people that have no transportation, and the cost for them to not use People's Express and use a taxi or Uber, whatever out there is way higher than that. So yes, to me this isn't a reciprocal thing. We don't need to get something back from them. We want to provide this service to those members of our community that need it, as any other community does. I mean, we have an obligation to our citizens to provide services for them and help them as best we can. And if this is the only thing we ever do, at least we're doing something in the community center and Meals on Wheels. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Ms. Otto.
So I also support this. I think that the nonprofit status is totally different than us providing funding to the taxpayers. Those who utilize this are also taxpayers. So this isn't just, and I know Janet said seniors, handicapped, individuals, but this is anybody that needs a ride. So it's open to our whole township, and that's why we did this. As far as the People's Express being nonprofit, that should have nothing to do with this at all in contribution. Even if they were outside of our township, I think we would still support it. Because they have 2 other facilities that are housed by Northfield Human Services. I'll tell you, there's a lot of people in our community that get benefits from the pantry and get benefits from what Northfield Human Services provides. So, being on the Kiwanis board, we also help Northfield Human Services as well. And, you know, these are people that are in need, and we have to be able to accommodate them. The nonprofit status, it has no bearing to do on this motion whatsoever.
Right. You already spoke, Ms. Ballinger. Do you have anything? Does everyone have what they need to make a decision on this? Okay, roll call vote, please.
Dockett?
No.
Manley? Yes. Otto?
Yes.
Zelenak?
Abstain.
Chockley?
Yes.
Bellinger?
No.
Chick?
Yes. Okay, that passes 4-2. 1 abstain. Thank you. Okay,
Yes.
then next item.
Thank you on behalf of People's Express and the residents of our community. Thank you.
Okay. I'd like to make a motion to purchase 1 full set of JAWS equipment, which will include all of the extras, spreader, ram, cutter, combi tool, direct electrical power cord, and a set of chains for a total price of $41,400.
Support.
Motion by Chockley, support by Otto. Any discussion on this item? Do we need any discussion? Mr. Dockett?
Is this your report, Chief? I didn't get a report in my packet.
Right.
And I'm wondering if this is...
No, this is separate. I didn't get a report in because I was out of town.
Okay, all right.
You'll get it. My report will be in the next packet.
All right.
For February
I just
25th.
wondered if this was the report or not. Thank you.
Just real quick, if I can, in my memo, and I have Deputy Chief Bishop is here too if you have any specific questions. He's more of an expert on the extrication equipment than myself, so as it states in there, it is much needed equipment for our department.
So we didn't get the grant after all?
We did not.
That's too bad.
We're going to put in for it again. We'll only put in for 1 set for next year, though, if this is successful.
Thank you, Ms. Manley.
You guys have a comment on this. It was probably at least a year ago, Salem Township did a mock Jaws of Life thing for my kids' school at Salem. And they talked through the difference of the newer vehicles and the older vehicles and the older Jaws of Life and newer Jaws of Life. So I, for one, having a newer vehicle and a foreign vehicle, I'm glad that we're getting this. And that presentation that they did was great.
We had hoped that we would be able to get the grant, but we just can't wait any longer. Like I mentioned in here, we've had a couple of occasions where we were not able to cut or move metal, and we had to call for a neighboring department to use theirs. All of our neighboring departments already have this new modern equipment, so thank you.
Okay, thank you.
I have another question.
Okay, go ahead.
I'll take it after you.
Okay, thank you. I was just going to ask, how many times could we have used this in the past without having to call other supporting police?
Well, the 2 that come to mind, I hadn't thought about. I mean, we would probably use this equipment 10 times a year on different occasions. And with this newer type of equipment, we can probably use it more for more things because it's more portable, right? So where before, if we were having to forcibly enter a building, we wouldn't typically use what is our old JAWS because they're hooked to a hydraulic hose to a generator on the truck, where now we can take these spreaders and take them anywhere we need to open a door. So it just gives us much more capability and better capability as well.
Great. Is this going to change your vote, Mr. Dockett? Go ahead.
I don't know. Did we get a trade-in, or can we sell the old one?
As part of this, we are trading in some of our older equipment.
Okay, we traded in the old jaws of life.
Yeah, they're giving us a little bit of a credit.
Okay, all right. I just wondered if.
Yep.
Thank you. I'd like to know where the money's going.
Okay, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Anyone opposed? Thank you, that passes 7-0. I'd like to make a motion to authorize the township manager to sign the letter of agreement with Fink & Fink PLLC for legal services as detailed in the proposal received dated January 13th, 2020.
Support.
Motion by Chockley, support by Bellinger. Any discussion on this item? Ms. Otto.
So I've seen a lot of different types of letters, a letter of agreements, and to me, this was not really a letter of agreement. It was just saying what they were going to do. I have a couple of questions. The one sentence says we will charge then current standard hourly rate. That wasn't mentioned. Is the then current standardly hourly rate the $250, or is this something else that wasn't mentioned? Other things that are in here is in a letter of agreement is that we do not cover, is that we don't say what services that are being rendered. It doesn't state what the length of the agreement is, or if there's a 30-day written notice for termination. When are payments due? Expectation. One of the things that I would really want our attorney to understand is that we do have a policy that that direction is taken from the township board and not from any one individual on the board. Or it is the township board that designates a person. They appoint a person to represent the board in any manner. I really do feel that there should be 2 signatures on this. Usually in any contract that we have, we do have 2 signatures, whether it's the clerk and the supervisor, but if the township manager is going to sign this, it should be the township manager and the clerk. So those were my changes, and I feel that this was a very vague letter of agreement, and I feel that this is a very important relationship between the township and an attorney firm, and that we need to beef it up a bit.
Okay. I'll let Mr. Fink respond if you'd like to, or have Mr. Dockett ask his question.
I'm happy to do it whichever way the board
Okay,
prefers.
let's deal with Ms. Otto's questions first, or issues.
I think I got something to add.
Well, let him deal with Ms. Otto's first, and then you can ask yours.
Well, I don't think she's clear. I have a copy of his resume, and on here it said that it's $250 an hour for partners and $200 for associates.
And we
That's
should have
what it
that
says
written in here.
So, but when we get his letter, it says $250. Doesn't say anything about the 200. So that's what I want.
We need to also have the fees covered in here.
Okay.
So whatever was detailed in that needs to be detailed in this.
Okay, let's let Mr. Fink respond.
Well, if I could respond first. When the board approved going ahead with this firm, what I had sent to Mr. Fink was that I didn't think the board was asking for a formal contract, but that they did feel that it would be held to the conditions outlined in the request for proposals, in accordance with what he had submitted and in accordance to the answers he gave to questions that the board had asked without going into more depth. Now, I'll let him take it from there.
I think that the governing document, if you will, is the proposal that we made and that the board accepted at the meeting when it appointed us or voted to appoint us as the township attorney. And the $200 an hour is what we would charge for an associate. I currently don't have an associate doing municipal work, and so I just put in the rate that Andrew Fink and Mariah Fink and I would charge. I don't need a signed contract from the board. Trustee Otto, to answer a couple of your other questions, the board can terminate me at any time, as we discussed at the meeting in January. If the board's not satisfied with our services or not comfortable with our firm, you don't need to give us 30 days notice. We would help you find another attorney, but you shouldn't have an attorney doing work for you that you're not comfortable with. And if you're concerned about us leaving the board, what I can tell you is we would not walk out and leave the township without representation in something. Again, I don't know that we need a 30-day notice, because we do our work and we expect to get paid. I don't have contracts with my other clients where I say, if you don't pay me within 30 days, I'm going to charge you interest. I do the work, I expect to get paid for my work, and especially in a business like the township, you have regular meetings and you approve payments, and I would expect to get paid in a reasonable fashion. There is one thing you said that is a little concerning, and this is the kind of discussion I would probably rather have privately instead of in a public meeting, but when you say that the attorney takes direction from the board as a whole, things come up between board meetings that need responses, and I would expect that you would want me to do the work. And for example, if your Freedom of Information coordinator has a question for me, we don't want to wait until a board meeting to have me answer that question. It's my understanding from talking to Mr. Burns and looking at some things, when the board asks for a formal written legal opinion, you want that to come from the board, and that makes sense to me. I don't know that it's necessary, but that makes sense to me. But in terms of giving legal advice on an ongoing basis, I would expect that the 3 elected officials would use our services, the township manager, the police chief, and that is how I would recommend you handle our services.
Yeah, well, that's not how our policy is written, though.
Well,
we do have a policy that says it has to come from the township board.
I haven't seen that policy, and I would like to.
We brought it here the last time that it was brought up, and that the same thing was used the same way. When a board member went outside that policy, it was brought up at that time.
Okay. Still like to
this
see
board is, with anybody that we do business with, there's also a policy that says that we have to have a contractual obligation. So there has to be some, either a contract, or if you want a letter of agreement, and a letter of agreement is the same thing as a contract. As far as when payments are due, you know, we could decide the payment's due 6 months from now, and you can say no, but it's 30 days. So really, I think that for us, I do believe, and I know that you come in good faith and everything, but I think at a point is that there has to be an understanding between our board and your firm, so that after it's done, we don't have to worry about it, and then we can move on.
Ms. Chick?
Yeah, I think I would as personally be more comfortable with, if you're going to do a letter of agreement, including all those items that Mrs. Otto requested. Mr. Dockett brought up as well the difference in fees, just in case there is a time when there is an associate, or you know, can put work off to somebody else. And then the couple of things that you brought up as well. Just as a matter of comfort for the township board, that we have something in writing indicating the responsibilities and the duties, and we're aware of that you agree with these things and we agree with these things. So,
okay, Ms. Bellinger.
I'm actually fine with this simple letter. I think this is going to be sufficient. And also, I don't believe it's proper for the board to prevent or bar board members from seeking legal advice and information and counsel if necessary. Of course, nobody should abuse it, and if there is abuse, that is another subject altogether.
Well, we know there's going to be abuse.
Right.
We know that before we
Because it already
start.
has.
I still don't understand. I still don't understand when your niece was here, we talked, the police chief talked to her, you said, or she said, that when she was in Chelsea, that she took care of the tickets for her. Now, is she an associate, or, I mean, this is what I'm asking.
No, she has her own firm. But
Okay.
her
Well,
firm does municipal work, and so we cooperate on work together. So
Well,
you will
I'm
receive
not
bills
looking
from
for
my
a
firm.
fight. The only reason I mentioned the 200, because I thought she was your associate and that she was going to take care of all the tickets. And they talked about it, the police chief and her, how she does it. She's there one day a week, and all four of the people she works for, all the townships send their police there to go to court that day and all that. So I'm confused about that. Thank you.
That's the way it operates, except that Northfield Township is not currently on that same schedule.
Yeah, I just didn't understand. I thought that's what she was going to be the associate. It doesn't seem like. Are you going to be in Chelsea working on tickets?
Sometimes. She will do most of it because her office is there and it's much more efficient for her to do that, but there will be times when she's not available and I do that.
But she's not an associate.
No, sir.
If I could mention, one of the first things that Mr. Fink asked me for was a report on how much had been spent on legal fees over the last year, which the controller was kind enough to provide, and I passed on. And he has several ways that he's considering to make it much more efficient and to save the township considerable amount of money. And I expected he would be bringing that back forthcoming as he sees areas that we could be benefited by that approach. One being, if we could get the judge to allow, the different jurisdictions to all be on the one day, then there would be that ability to do some sharing.
Zelnok, go ahead.
So I personally am fine with the letter as is.
Yeah.
The other thing is I have statutory duties. And yes, sometimes I need to talk to the attorney, such as we have delinquent personal property. I need to do my job. So to me, to come and ask the board, can I do my job?
That's not what the policy reads. The policy reads designated.
Okay.
So you are the designated person
All right.
to represent.
Well, that's good. I'm glad.
So is the person with the FOIA. She
Okay.
is the designated person to represent.
Okay, so I guess I need to re-see that policy. But I'm glad, because we do have some delinquent personal property. It's always good to have to try to collect those in an election year. Lucky me. And so, good, glad you cleared that up, because I'd like to see that policy. And Mr. Fink, do you still think you want to be our lawyer?
Yeah.
I think we had this conversation when I stood out there. The policy that you have described is, in my opinion, unworkable.
Can you
It's
talk
not good
into
for
the
township.
mic? Please.
The policy that has been described is, in my opinion, unworkable and not good for the township. And I am willing to try to assist the township with its legal needs and give you the best advice I can and the best service that you can get, and I guess we'll have to see.
Okay. Ms. Chick, you had something? No? Ms. Manley? No? I just know in many cases there were, you needed to talk to Burns about election issues, and you know, you constantly seem to have issues with, we have contracts that need to.
I brought a lot of things to the
Yes.
board for contracts, but.
We have contracts, I mean, things come up. So I would like to see that policy. So
You can ask Jennifer for it. She's provided to me several times.
Okay, I'd like to take a look at that, and if it needs changing, it needs changing. Okay, so we have a motion. I'm comfortable with the motion.
What was the motion again? I kind of forgot it.
The motion is to authorize the township manager to sign the letter of agreement with Fink & Fink PLLC for legal services as detailed in the proposal received by the board dated January 13th, 2020. The motion was by Chockley and support by Bellinger.
Call the question?
Are you all comfortable enough to vote on this at this point? Okay.
Roll call.
All right, roll call vote, please.
Bellinger.
Yes.
You have a question?
I would like to say I'm going to be voting no on this because I was under a different understanding of how this was about the prices. So that's the only reason that I'll be voting no.
All right, I guess I'll go docket next. So you're no.
Excuse me?
No.
I'm calling Jay your vote.
No.
Otto?
I am also voting no.
Chick?
No, just because I want more information. Sorry.
Chockley?
Yes.
Manley? Yes. Zelenak?
Yes.
Okay, that passed 4-3. Yep. Thank you.
Welcome again.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right, now we're at the storage tank. I would like to make a motion. Oh, gosh. I have a question first. Mr. Ains, there are 2 motions listed on page 2 of your memo. Do we need both of those motions to move forward? Otherwise, I'm likely to just pick draft number 2. Yeah, we gotta make a motion first.
Yeah, but it says just discuss, so.
I think, well, I'll defer to our confirmed attorney. What you're trying to do is to authorize us to go through the process that is outlined in Steve Mann's legal opinion. The intent of this would be that you would be authorizing the path towards securing bonds to fund the project, that in the process of doing that, you would be publishing the required notice of 45 days to the public, time in which the referendum could be petitioned, as I understand it. And under your local ordinance or resolution, that the postcards that have been mentioned before would be sent out.
Okay.
And then you would have a public meeting on that. You would not proceed to going out for bid until you had confirmation that you had the funding source to proceed with this.
Okay, that wasn't my question, but I will make a motion I will move that the township manager and township legal counsel draft a resolution to be considered at the February 25th, 2020 meeting to authorize the publication of the intent to issue general obligation bonds in the amount of $6,240,225. I don't need, no, well, I'm choosing general obligation bonds because it's 3% instead of 3 1/4. So that's my motion for general obligation bonds. So motion by Chockley and support by Chick. Now we can talk about it.
Got a question.
Yes, go ahead.
The 25% potential overrun, why such a, because it was mentioned by Call the Public, and that was a good point. The expecting a potential 25% to cover all the other fees and engineering and finance and so forth. So how does it work if we don't spend, if we only spend about half that much?
If I could address that, and also my apologies to the chair, I was not following what you were asking, but yeah, it's either revenue bonds or general obligation bonds. What you're referring to on the 25% is your legal counsel with Miller, Canfield, etc. On bonding has indicated that if you go out with a notice and you say you're going to borrow, just as an example, $100,000, and then the bids come in at 125, you cannot go backwards and redo it. You've got to go somehow to make up the difference or not do the project. So their recommendation is that you always estimate high so that whatever they come in at, you still are authorized under that source of revenue to proceed. Now, the attorneys and I had asked our engineer to provide an estimate of what that would be. Brian Rubel was here tonight, and I defer to him on part of that, but first I'd say that if you recall, this is not the standard process that you may have been talked about before, because I had recommended that you go ahead and have the engineering done and that you pay for it out of your regular funding that you have. And so I don't know if he's included that or not included that in that figure, but that could make a difference too. So Brian, if you'd care to come up and address that.
Well, regarding that, the amount the bond will be, when is it determined how much the bond will be?
Now.
You end up picking the number to authorize for the public notice, but then the actual amount of the award of the bonds, as I understand it, is when they are issued by your financial advisor to get bids from the companies that would provide the funding.
It'd be nice to have a timeline. It'd be nice to have a timeline. A nice graph on, you know, this is this process, this is when this happens, this was when this happens, instead of like talking.
Well, if the board remembers last spring when we had all the experts here to answer questions, they were doing that. But
that was last spring.
At this point, you know, it's taken you this long to get to this point. And you're taking it slow and in process and thinking it through. And I can have the experts here next meeting if you want to set that for next board meeting. But I personally didn't feel it was proper to ask them to come to a meeting if you were not going to even consider proceeding. So I'm not anticipating you approving these tonight, but that you indicate if your intent would be to approve them, subject to having your questions answered by those parties.
Okay, who has questions for Mr. Rubel? Oh, the cost of it and the 25%.
Yeah, that's the first one.
Yeah.
We've completed a set of drawings, which is necessary.
Yeah.
I don't think your mic is on, sir.
You have to turn on the mic.
Okay, so we've completed a set of drawings, which is a necessary step to advertising for bids, and from that set of drawings we can develop a much more complete cost opinion. The memo quotes that cost at $3,730,000, and Mr. Ains said it exactly correct. At this point then, the bond attorney needs a total cost opinion that would go into your resolution to borrow money. So there are more costs associated with the project than just that $3.7 million to the contractor. There's the legal counsel, the financial planning cost, the engineering cost, and probably the biggest part of that is a contingency. Mr. Ains said it absolutely perfectly. It is, the 3.7 is my opinion. I'm not a contractor bidding the job, so we need to estimate high in case the bids come in high and you still wish to proceed with the project, that you have obligated the township to borrow the proper amount of money. So that's what is in that 25% is well over a third of it is just a contingency, just just in case they come in high, you have enough money.
Okay. Ms. Chick.
Hi, how are you? I would like to know, the 3 people that came asking questions about the different technologies, I know we've been looking at it basin for a long time. Is there something comparable, similarly cost-effective or efficient or better than what we've been looking at so far? And again, Ms. Otta brought up the comment about longevity.
Yeah, we have been talking about this a long time. Okay. And I confess, I took a few notes, but I don't have the emails that they were referring to. So I'm quite in the dark about what their thoughts were. But there are 3 ways to control infiltration and inflow: wet weather in a sewer system. You can remove it. You can go through extensive studies to find it, identify it, remove it. We've talked about that in the past. It can be done. It will take many years, and it will be very, very costly. And I would certainly recommend, and Mr. Willis does do that, as he finds things, he does do that. He does correct them.
Yes.
So the township is doing that to some extent. The other way is to push more water through the plant. It comes to the plant to push more water through the plant. Mr. Willis does the most he can possibly do in that regard already. So there really isn't anything more that can be done on that side of things without another capital project, something else. And then the third way to manage infiltration and inflow is to store it in a facility, in a tank. And that is the project that is in front of you.
Okay, and then the question came up about the location of the recommended location of the tank. Is there a reason why it's in that space and not in a different space?
At the plant?
Yes.
On the site of the plant? Mm-hmm. Well, I think the location they were referring to was to the south of the current processes. And there is empty space there. That space has been penciled in for years to be the future expansion of the plant. So there really would not be a space to expand the plant whenever, 10, 15 years from now, whenever that is needed, if we build a tank in that space.
Okay, so I've also heard people use, because we are considering adding a basin, that is considered expansion, but we are not expanding the plant, we're just adding a storage tank.
That is correct.
And the expansion of the plant isn't expected to happen like 20, 30 years down the road? Okay.
That's exactly correct.
Okay, thank you.
So where would we put the storage tank if it wasn't in the area that they were designated, that they thought it was at in the south end? Where would we put it at?
Where other choices would there be?
Yeah, because I know we have a lot of land out there.
At the plant, but a lot of it's wetland too.
Right.
I don't know of another logical location. Now, Mr. Willis may, he's there every day, but we are in the location that is about the only one that I know of.
Well, where is that location? So if they're talking about the wooded area.
Yeah.
So it's that right there. Okay. That's what I thought it was.
To the west side of the plant, yeah.
So it's this yellow mark right there.
Yes.
It's this yellow mark, not this right
I believe
here.
that's wetland over there.
Okay.
Okay, so
It's certainly farther away than, and it's lower. The elevation has a lot to do with this too. We need to fill the tank, and then we need to drain it back to the head of the plant. So where we have it now, we'll be able to drain that by gravity without building another large pump station.
So this plan is going to go through the Planning Commission at Green Oak, right?
Yes, it is.
Okay, and then it has to go through site plan review and everything else, just like any other project?
We've made all those applications, yes.
Okay, and so they would have to have buffering anyway around the tank as well?
The site plan that we have reviewed, we've gotten back, is we have met all of Green Oak's site plan requirements.
Okay.
We have gotten that letter back.
Thank you.
And is that the reason why we now have the public hearing that's going to be at Green Oak?
Yes.
That's coming up? Okay.
My understanding, now I am not a land use expert, a zoning expert. My understanding is the site is zoned industrial, and they consider the wastewater a non-industrial use. Therefore, adding to
a conditional use.
non-zoned use requires a public hearing, is my understanding. Yes, ma'am.
To address the audience concerns too, they were talking about trees getting cut down. Where does that come into play? Are we cutting down trees?
We are removing some trees.
Several, or?
I don't know if I have a count. I wasn't anticipating that question, but we are removing some trees.
I know we were actually just at Green Oak and we were discussing this very issue about tree mitigation. Yeah. They do have a tree mitigation plan and a policy. So, right. You know, if you have to leave landmark trees and the shrubby trees, the thin ones you can take out, but you have to replace them or pay for them.
Right. And again, I believe we've counted and measured the trees that we're taking out, and we did have comments.
You got another half a counter here, you know.
Right. Another half?
Counter.
Oh, do you want to talk about?
You got 3 more people
go ahead.
Over on this side. 15% is the most contingency I ever heard of any of the jobs that we did here.
I do not think we will be anywhere close to that. I'm hoping it's a very conservative number.
Well, you're at 25. I said I've never seen us go over 15.
When we get to construction, it's more like 1 usually. So this is just a contingency. We don't know. The bidding environment right now is very nutty. Contractors are very busy. It's hard to even get contractors to bid projects right now. So I wanted to be very conservative with that number.
I don't see why we'd use 25 when we can. I've never heard of 25.
Okay.
All the jobs we've done here.
Ms. Bellinger?
I got some other problems here.
All right.
The tank started at 2.8 million. Now it's up to 7 million. I was using the other number. That's why. But it's close. Now it's up to 7 million. No one at the township tells us the facts on this kind of stuff. They say approximate rate impact is $25 REU for every REU, $25 resident equivalent units per quarter. This information is based on a 2018 study. Now this is already 2021.
20.
So, excuse me, by the time it's built, it'll be so if this was on, it says the first part of 18. So we got 18, first part of 18, 19, 20, 21. So this $25 study is going to be 3 years old.
Okay.
So I think Mr. Brewer was absolutely right. We're looking at a lot more money than $25. Just so happens I've got 5 of them. So that's $125. So there's I can't understand why we have to build onto the sewer plant to take care of stormwater. Because the only time it gets high is when we have a storm. So it's not sewer water, it's storm water that's doing it. So why are we spending $7 million to purify more rainwater? I don't get it.
Let's let Mr. Rubel answer that. Your question about the storm. There's no storm water going into there. There's rainwater infiltrating the pipes, but...
What do you call rainwater? That's stormwater.
Okay, but you can't fix that.
Why we can't fix it?
Millions and millions and millions of dollars.
Well, it's going to cost us millions and millions for this tank.
Yep, that's right. Am I correct, Mr. Rubel?
Yeah, we've measured flows in the township a number of times, and we've unfortunately always found that it's very evenly distributed throughout the township. There's not a hot spot of flow.
But we've never had another engineer look at it except him.
That's
for the last 65 years.
Okay. Ms. Bellinger?
I don't know that Brian can answer this, but I was very curious about the mention of the upfront bond costs, maybe having those costs higher as opposed to the other, the finish. I don't know how this works. I don't know what that means, but if it sounds like something to explore.
I cannot answer that. I'm not a
Our bond
financial
attorney could
professional.
probably
Okay.
answer that.
Yeah, we'll have to wait till
Our
we talk.
bond attorney could
Bond
answer
counsel?
that, because
Okay.
it is a good question.
Yeah.
I would mention one item that may not be as obvious here, but when we were here last spring talking about this, the financial advisors had projected a 4% interest rate. Now they're projecting a 3%. So the financial market is also doing this up and down, and you're at a low point now. You don't know how long that's going to last. But I did want to mention to the board, I sent out today, there had been talk in the past about why was this needed, that we hadn't had violations, or hadn't proved those violations. And as Dan reported last month, there were substantial overflows at the plant, and the Eagle representatives had been out and had brought to his attention and some concerns they had. But I sent out by email, and it may have not gotten to you, Mr. Dockett, I don't know, because it just came to me today, is that the Eagle Group sent a certified mail, which I haven't received yet. Dan got the email here, that the township is in violation, gives a violation number, tells all the different types of problems that exist at the plant in some detail, and they want a response from the township by March 15th. I take it back, by March the 13th, as to what the township is going to do to correct the problem to avoid the future violations. Now at this point, Mr. Willis and I are at a loss of what else we could say if you're not going to go ahead at some point and do this, because he's tried everything he can think of to address it up to now. So I did want you to know you've got an official notice now, which you didn't have a year from ago.
Good. Ms. Chick?
I also wanted to add that they recently had an inspection at the plant from reconnaissance inspection on January 29th, 2020, and item number 5 of their summary was inflow and infiltration was discussed. This was a subject brought up in previous inspections. Many of the collection system lines had been photographed and no major issues were found. It is deemed that there was no significant benefit to repair small leaks that had been found.
Okay.
Could you please restate the motion? Which motion are we doing? The very top one? Draft
second
one?
one.
The second one, and it's a general obligation bond?
Yes.
Okay. All right, great.
Yes, I would like to say that I would like this board to consider a point of sale inspection program at some point for the homes. We have very, very old subdivisions, and I can't imagine that they're all watertight at this point. We've got trees growing into them, and I guess Mr. Willis was just going to attach something to a pipe, and that was all messy too, right?
Yeah, it was a
recent
house on East Shore that had never been hooked up, and they went to hook up the pipe, and it was full of roots from just sitting empty for all these years too. So
I can't hear you.
we had a house on East Shore that they went to attempt to hook up a couple weeks ago, and it went under the East Shore Drive. It was on the opposite side of the sewer, and it was full of roots. The tap was, and it had never been used. It just sat there empty all these years, and that's what we found. So it's going to get cleaned out before they use it. But
is this a new house?
yes.
So we have more.
Well, that's why it was never used. I mean.
Correct, but it just shows that there can be problems with any line along the township borders.
Well, what's it show that the pipe, something grew in the pipe?
Correct.
Well, yeah, but they put the sewers in how many years ago? 50 years ago?
Yeah.
And they've never been hooked up, so.
Right, but they're getting old. Ms. Chick,
So
go ahead.
my understanding is that the township is only responsible for their lines, that they're not responsible for any lines coming from any building to the lines, and that is probably where the problems are coming from.
Correct.
And inappropriate or illegal sump pump setup, so.
Yeah, it would have to be a pipe inspection, and then somebody would have to pay for that pipe inspection, and somebody would have to pay for a repair if we found something in the line then, and that would either be up to the homeowner, and you'd have to force the homeowner to pay for that, or it would be up to the township.
Right, well,
So-
I recently looked up, and I guess anybody could, that an average cost just per foot is $150 per
Correct.
foot to repair that line from the house to the main line, so.
Yeah.
Okay, so we have a motion. You have questions too?
I have
Okay.
many questions.
Oh.
So the first one is, I mean, to me, when we're talking dollar amount, and you say 25%, and you give us legal fees, engineering fees, financial fees, I want the breakdown. I want to know what each one is going to, your anticipated cost, not just 25%, and I don't know if it's, you said most of it was going to be in engineering. We're talking a lot of money.
I did not say that.
Okay, so there you go. So.
I've already given you a proposal.
Yeah, we haven't.
You've already hired me for design, so that is part of the public record.
Right. So then you say, I guess you maybe misunderstood my question, or maybe I didn't answer it properly. We have a 25% multiplier to ensure coverage of legal fees, engineering fees, and financial fees. I would like to know what percentage goes to each of those categories. Is it just 25%? We have no idea?
How about we break it out for our February 25th meeting, when we're actually going to deal with the resolution?
Yeah, but again, Madam Chair, you had said, why does it take so long to get things done here? Because we're talking significant money and we don't have detail. So I'm not sure why it's here without the detail. So
if I could address that.
Go ahead.
When he's talking about the 25%, and that is for these different reasons, there's also just an open contingency there.
I understand that.
Okay. And the reason we don't bring back things is because we brought them before. The board has not taken action. I mean, we need to know whether you want to spend the money to take the next step. And the bond people, the legal people with Noah Canfield, they don't get paid anything for any of this until a bond would actually go ahead. So all these times we've had them out here, you've had them a lot in just the 2.5 years I've been here, they're doing that essentially at no charge to you. They're making investment. Maybe down in the future they'll get some payment out of it. But if you want them out next time, I will ask them to come out. But I didn't want to bring them out any more than we want to put this out for bid and have contractors be out money if the board isn't serious about going ahead with construction, if the numbers show that they should be. So I guess that's what I would ask, is the board tell me whether to get the experts out here, if there's any purpose in it.
We can have that debate some other time. But
Sure.
anyway, so.
What's your other question?
So again, I think 25% seems to be a high multiplier. So what if we did 15%, and do we have enough to cover it in our fund balance? Is that something that would be reasonable? If Mr. Rubel is saying, well, that's a really extensive number, then why don't we narrow the scope down if we have funding? So I think that should be an alternative. So if we go between the revenue bonds versus the general bonds, what's the difference to charge to our customer?
It'd be on the higher end of the 20 to 25 bucks, right?
So,
yeah.
I don't like to guess. I think, again, we're talking a lot of money. This is detail that I would request. You're giving me two options. You say $20 to $25, but you don't say what.
Percent, oh yeah.
You know, you don't tell me what it is about. And I think that's important. So you're not really giving me two options, you're giving me one option. It's general bonds, it's going to be around $25. So
Okay.
that's, yeah. I'm asking for the consumer, what is going to be their sewer rates if we go with the revenue bond versus if we go with the general bond?
It's based on a 3-year-old study.
Yeah, so anyway, that's what I'm asking.
Okay, I think it's time to vote on this thing.
Madam Chair, I have the floor, and until I release the floor, you can't call the question.
You're right, I cannot call a question. Continue.
So again, we have this detail. It's important to me to understand it so I can explain it to my residents. And I can't right now. So that's one of them. The other one is we have the option of we can do the yeah, we can clean the lines out. So Mr. Dockett has a good point. If rainwater is getting into the pipes, we're going through our equipment with rainwater. I know that's been a debate, and the numbers we get, it would take many years and cost a lot of money. Is that 20 years and cost 10 million? Is that 30 years and cost 50 million? So again, we need, when we make, when we're making a huge decision, we need to me have more information on that regards. So tell me it's going to be 50 years and cost 20 million, and it may never get fixed. So then I would like to let people know, yes, I did call Eagle today. I talked to Pam Willard. She's our new representative, as well as Brent Bogner, who I had talked to a year ago. Because I think there was a comment made just talking to anybody at the MDEQ what it was. No, I talked to Brent Bogner as well, and I talked to him again, and they were very courteous to give me the call back today. So, Mr. Bogner, I said, we had this conversation about a year ago, and you had said that we were fine and that the plant was running just fine and that you didn't see any need to make any changes at this time. I said, so what's changed? And he said, basically, some of the partially treated was not reported to the MDEQ, and that's in the letter. And he said that's basically what's changed. And I talked to Mr. Willis, and he had indicated that, I think that was the time you and Mr. Hardesty were doing the transfer. So that is what he's indicated, that's why. So anyway, I tried to do my due diligence and ask questions, and basically I feel that I get roadblocked, and that's why things keep coming back, because we don't get sufficient information to make it. And then it'll come back again, and come back again, and then we'll make it.
I'd like to point out that the new Eagle has made a point this year of going after stormwater and infiltration, that they made it a priority because of all the rain we've had. The last, the head of the Eagle I was at a conference, and she pointed out that we've had, in the last 5 years, we've had the 5 highest rainfalls, the 3 highest rainfalls, and the 1 highest rainfalls in the past 5 years. And they're going after all these communities. You've probably got the copy of the letters that they've sent me, that they're looking at every community now for their plan to deal with stormwater and infiltration. And if we do not, by March 13th, I have to send them a letter saying what we're going to do. And I really don't want to send them a letter saying, well, currently we are not going to do anything. I can do that if the board wants, but I don't like to do that kind of thing. But it's the board's priority to do that.
So again, as I had mentioned, I talked to the Eagle extensively today, and they were very kind. So things have changed.
Yes.
So what was, Madam Chair, your motion was to go out and do general bonds, correct?
Yes.
And so we don't have all the information about the revenue bonds, but maybe that's so. We have a motion to do general bonds without necessarily knowing all the details on the revenue bonds. So.
We've got information on the revenue bonds. It's just that we have to bond at a higher rate and for more money.
Correct.
Because we have to hold 10%, 110% reserve, I believe. So we have to bond for more money at a higher rate, and it will end up costing the users more. That's why I'm
and
going
my
to
question
general.
is how much more? Because again, on the general bond, you put the entire faith of the township behind it. On the revenue bond, you put the sewer customers' faith behind it. And that's the difference.
Right, but we've never defaulted on
Never
any.
is such a good word.
Should we do this before Green Oak has their meeting? I mean,
all right.
So anyway,
maybe
I have actually given up the floor. You can have it, Mr. Dockett.
Huh?
I have given up the floor. You can have it.
I didn't give it to him. Wait a minute.
Okay, I'm asking the question.
No time sharing.
How would we like it if Green Oak, I mean, if they did something before we had our meeting?
Okay. All right, I'd like to call the question, and I'm going to repeat the motion. I move that the Township Manager and Township Legal Counsel draft a resolution to be considered at the February 25th meeting to authorize the publication of the intent to issue general obligation bonds in the amount of $6,240,225 for the construction of an equalization basin at the wastewater treatment plant. And that was seconded by Ms. Chick.
Chick.
So that hasn't really changed. So,
So do we
okay.
have to have all those numbers in? So we're going with the 25%?
The $6,240,225. Right. That includes the 25%.
They both do.
Okay, so I will let people know, after talking to Eagle and hearing the new news, I am for doing the basin. Never, I am not for putting the 25% in there.
Okay, so would you like to make a list of the things that you need to know before February 25th? So that we can get you the answers?
Yeah.
And what the 25% consists of and everything? Then you'll feel more comfortable.
That's correct. I mean, I think, yeah.
Okay.
I want to know what the 25% is, so.
Okay.
So and your motion, I will be voting no because of the 25%.
Okay. But anyway, we're just authorizing them to draft a resolution.
Yeah. But again,
okay.
So that means you're going right down the path, so it doesn't matter.
I understand that we won't necessarily be that value.
You're going to bond for that value.
For,
yeah.
You are going to go out and bond for that value.
Yeah.
With
for
the 25.
possibly more than we need. So how does that get back to, how does that return to the people that are paying?
How does it come back?
That's what I want to know. How does it come back? Okay, let's say it only costs $5 million and we bond it for $7 million. How does the user get that $2 million back?
Why don't we have our bond counsel explain that at our next meeting? Is that reasonable?
Yes.
Okay.
But the figure that they're talking about is what goes in the notice of referendum. Mm-hmm. It's not the final number of what actually gets borrowed, because that's dependent on the bids that come in. So you've got actual hard numbers to have them recommend a bid. But this is not just Brian's recommendation. This is the people who deal every day with issuing bonds and selling bonds and so forth, who are saying these are reasonable percentages to have for this notice, and then you go with an actual figure after that. And as far as the 2-year-old numbers from 2018, if the board wants to authorize another rate study, that could be done simultaneously, so that when the 45 days is up, you've got the new numbers from a new rate study, but you've had to pay probably another $10,000 to get the new numbers.
Yeah. Okay.
Can I ask a question, please? I know you made so now it's question time.
I'm calling the question, yeah.
So, can you tell me the difference between, maybe Lenore will have to do it, between the people on the sewer being responsible for this bill or the people in the whole township if something happens? If something happens, I want to know if the people that are not on the sewer, do they have to pay?
Oh,
or is it just,
I know the answer
you
to
know,
this.
I think it's fair that only the people that's on the sewer should be on this, and I don't know which bond that is.
Oh, revenue. The revenue bond.
The revenue bond, and that's just the people on the sewer.
Correct.
Is that what you're?
No, I've chosen the general obligation bonds.
I don't know if we should put everybody in jeopardy on this.
They would all have to not pay their bill.
It's a very consistent payment that comes in every quarter. You can't not pay your sewer bills.
I know, but if something happens, the sewer department goes broke, then
that's our fault.
Well, I mean, I don't think we should jeopardize our people who are not on the sewer.
I can answer real quickly.
Yep, go ahead.
Okay, so if the township defaults on the payment for the bond, the first payment would come out of the general fund. If we continue to default, then it's the full faith and credit of the township, and then the whole township's responsible for it.
Okay. All right, I called the question. Let's have a roll call vote, please.
Chick? Yes. Zelenak?
No.
Chockley?
Yes.
Otto?
Yes.
Manley? Yes. Bellinger?
Yes.
Docket?
No.
Okay, thank you. That passes 5-2.
Can I make a quick comment?
Yes.
We've been paying a bond for this public safety building for almost 20 years. We've never missed a payment, even in the really bad times.
Yep, even through the biggest recession that we've had. And also that is going to be paid off in 2023.
All right.
Can I ask a question?
Yes, please.
Mr. Ains, can we get a copy of the rate study in our next packet? Just so we can review it. I know we all probably have it somewhere, but.
Yes, we can bring it back to you.
Okay.
Okay. All right. I'm looking for the North Village.
Thank you, Mr. Riddle.
Thank you. I've lost the North Village. Oh, well, it'll show up. Yeah, that's what we're next. Yes, no, thank you very much.
I can help both sides.
Yes, you are helpful. Okay. Yeah. Just keep us all in
That is
order.
true.
All right, here we are with the North Village. Finally. I guess.
So do we have a motion to accept?
No, we don't. Would you like to?
We need one, yeah. Let's see if I can craft one here. I move that the township accepts the offer by Livonia Builders to purchase the portion as indicated here of the North Village site for the placement of single-family homes, approximately 90 thereof, for a price of $765,000.
Okay.
With the guarantee, obviously we'll have to do that, but
I would include the changes, or include the 7 changes.
Yeah. Yep, the changes, which include about 6.5 acres of park.
15.5 acres of property. Yep. I'll support.
Okay. Yeah,
I'm
Ms.
sorry. I didn't know you were done. Sorry.
Oh, yeah, I think I'm done. That may need some fine-tuning. I would certainly like to have our attorney involved in this somehow, though. So how would we introduce that?
Review the purchase order, right?
Yeah.
You'll need a purchase agreement.
Yes.
And my recommendation tonight would be that you authorize the manager and me to pursue a contract, but until you see all the essential terms, you don't know if you're going to approve a purchase agreement. You have an idea of the price, but there will be other terms, and you may also want to make that contingent upon the development agreement that would also result.
Okay, well, I need a motion for that.
Would you like to craft us a motion?
Yeah, yeah, wouldn't it?
Why don't we wait until after this one is done and then we go to the next one?
Do we have a second?
Yeah.
Yeah,
So-
second, but I have a question for Mr. Fink.
Go ahead.
Okay, can you provide us a template of those things that you would like to see in the purchase agreement so that we get it right the first time?
Yes, the plan I would like to comment also,
Okay.
but it sometimes takes more than the first time to get it right.
Yeah, no, I understand, but we want to make sure
So
that
I think
you know,
appropriate action for the board tonight would be to simply have a motion that authorizes the manager to pursue this transaction with Livonia Builders and bring back a recommendation to the board that might include a purchase agreement, and it might just be the next step. The development agreement will take a while. The planner will certainly have to be involved in that, and that would include site plan review. And I'll reiterate what I said before. Sometimes it's better to have this kind of advice not be at a public meeting and televised, but it may be that you don't want to consummate the sale until you know that all of the rest of those pieces are in place. And so this transaction could take a year or possibly even more.
Okay.
Okay.
Madam Chair, I guess that's one of my concerns with the motion that was just made, is how much is that legally binding? Shouldn't we just direct our attorney to make the purchase offer based on these conditions?
I can rescind the motion because I prefer this idea as obviously we have an attorney here for a reason, and so I can rescind the motion and
that's what I
change
mean,
it to
at
as
a minimum,
recommended.
I would think Mr. Fink, his motion of, work with a purchase agreement based on these terms and conditions.
Yes,
Okay.
I agree.
Okay.
That is a good idea, to have the manager work with the attorney to
Yeah.
But I'm not making that motion, I'm just suggesting it.
Okay, Mr. Lippens.
Yeah, the clarification that I'd offer to the process is you do have a purchase offer from Livonia Builders. It has not been reviewed by your attorney.
Right.
So if you were to make a motion, I think the motion should contain that you would have your attorney and the manager work through the purchase agreement and recommend any changes to that agreement to bring back to the board.
Okay, I could make that motion. I move to have the township manager work with the township attorney to review the current offer from Livonia Builders and bring back to the township board any recommendations on how to proceed with that.
Are you revising your original
I rescinded
motion?
the last one.
Okay.
Is that what you needed, Mr. Fink?
That's sufficient.
That was sufficient? Okay,
Madam Chair,
great.
yes, it is.
Okay. All right. Are we ready? Oh, Ms.
Support by
Chick
Chick.
supported. Yeah. So, all right. Let's have any more discussion?
Lots of discussion, so.
Lots of discussion? Okay.
So first, again, we made a motion on 8/13/19 that said anytime the North Village development came back to this board that it would be scored by according to the synthesis plan. This motion carried 7-0. Again, this motion was not followed like many of the motions by this board, and there's no accountability or consequences for anybody. The last scoring, as I said, was a D+. The North Village plan was approved, as Ms. Chick also in the master plan, and this proposal looks nothing like that. Many of us ran on that we would support our master plan, but again, this proposal does not support that as in looking at the two plans. The township spent over around $45,000 developing the North Village plan as well as meeting with the developers. We spent another $25,000 on our master plan, but yet we don't follow our plan. If we're not going to follow the plan, I would just say, why do we even spend the money or the time? Why didn't we just carve out the property that we wanted and sell the rest? Maybe we would have got a better offer. The Livonia Builder plan is not going to make our town a destination place. It's going to be the destination for 90 houses, and we'll be building a park for those 90 houses. This will be very little property to provide amenities for our people that currently left to make it a destination. Believe it or not, I would like to see this property developed so I can come out and walk and have a nice restaurant and a nice meal and not leave my town and go to a different town. When I look at the pictures that we've seen lately from the Historical Society, we were a destination place. Again, I want our downtown to be like that. I want to come downtown, eat at cool restaurants, walk by the lake, and do some cool shopping and kayaking. This property is the heart of our downtown. If all we do is build 90 houses in a small park, our heart will be gone. Once our heart is gone, the opportunity will be gone to be a destination place, like we were, could be, and should be. A key to success is planning. We didn't follow the plan.
Okay. I'll have to say that I would like to make sure that we have those mixed use components really written, and really done well, that we're missing, because the Livonia Builders was only going to do the homes in the back of the property. So the commercial, those mixed use components really are going to be critical to the place. So anyway, we do have a motion. Ms. Chick?
Yeah, I just wanted to say the North Village Committee went through this, and it was comprised of DDA members, board members, the planner, and the township manager, and they, the proposal in the synthesis plan did change from that exact picture, because we pulled the commercial out of the back of the property where it's more visible and put it up front. We pulled those two properties out so that we can actually sell them and recognize more value for both of those. The reason in the synthesis plan, it was a 2-, 3-, 4-story building, and instead of having these big buildings in the back of the property overlooking the lake and the park, and you can see them from the US 23, and there were rentals. There's no property ownership, there's no investment from the people in the rentals into the town. So we decided to do, or the Livonia Builders offered single-family homes, brought all those same amount of houses, by the way. Actually, there was more rental units. I think there was over 100 or 120. So this is less density than the other proposal, brought all of those units down to the ground, and they're charming, beautiful. If you know this builder, you can look him up online, the kind of work that he does. Very copacetic with the charming in the rural area or character of the township. So it was a process, and yes, it did manifest into a different look, but it's more complementary to our downtown area.
Okay. Mr. Dockett.
I don't know. I don't think we ever had an appraisal on the property. We paid $336,000 or $338,000 for it. We took $22,000 of taxes off the property when we bought it. So if you had that for the last 3 or 4 years, and you add all the other money we put into it, we figure we got probably around $700,000 in it, there more or less. So now we're selling the property for $765,000. This is crazy. It is worth at least $1.7 million in my opinion, and I wouldn't sell it for that. But to sell it for what we got in it, I don't think we're doing our taxpayers any favors. Thank you.
Thank you.
And, yeah, for just a point of clarification, we bought 23 acres for $350,000-ish. That's $16,000 an acre. We're selling 15.5 acres of that for almost $50,000 an acre, so that is a huge return on our investment.
Well, you can look at it that way, but there's no money in it. 765 is just about what we got in it. You can look at it any way you want.
I think we're below 500,000, but, or maybe 520, something like that. Okay.
Can we call the question?
We're calling the question, yes. Roll call.
Chick?
Yes.
Zelenak?
No.
Dockett?
No.
Chockley?
Yes.
Bellinger?
Yes.
Manley? Yes. Otto?
Yes.
Thank you. That passes 5-2. All right. We'll look forward to what you negotiate there. Okay.
Get to put the attorney to use.
Next item is to discuss the sale of 75 Barker in public parking. I know the board is aware that we have an offer on 75 Barker that proposed, pardon?
We have multiple
offers, yes. And recently we got another one in. And that developer has turned in his offer through Thomas Duke, just like the other ones. The question that has been raised on this issue is that some of the board believes there should be parking remaining for the public, and then some of the board wanted to sell the whole thing and, you know, the parking too. So I've been concerned about the lack of public parking, especially when we're looking at what's going to happen potentially on the North Village site. There won't necessarily be vast quantities of public parking left, you know, over there. We don't require parking on any of the parcels in the downtown, in the Whitmore Lake District. So we could be at a severe loss of public parking. So my opinion and my recommendation at the bottom is to communicate with Thomas Duke the preference of the board to sell 75 Barker with the expectation that an easement will be negotiated with the buyer to provide public parking on the parcel. So that will be my motion. I recommend authorizing the township manager to communicate with Thomas Duke the preference of the board to sell 75 Barker with the expectation that an easement will be negotiated with the buyer to provide public parking on the parcel. Do I have a second? Everybody wants to sell the parking?
Yeah. Yeah,
okay. It's at the bottom under action requested. Oh. Yeah, sorry.
I will support, but I do have a lot of questions on this.
Okay, well, we'll be glad to talk about them.
It might be a good question to see if the attorney has any opinion on this.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's what I'm thinking while the whole thing is going on.
I didn't hear it, I'm sorry.
There you go.
Is your opinion on this?
Speak into the mic. Come on.
Is he familiar with the 75 Barker?
I mean, the problem is, and just to give you background, is that when we made the decision to sell this property, we asked several questions as to, can we split the two properties? Can we do a easement? And we never got the information. It took probably 6 to 8 months before we even got the information on it.
So if I did it in 5, I'd be ahead of the game.
While it was listed.
Okay.
So now we got the information on it. The question is, can we change all this?
I mean, right now it's listed to sell it as it is.
Yeah.
Right.
I mean, we have now 5 proposals. We don't know if any of the proposals still stand because a lot of things have changed. I mean, for me, I would need to know, number one, do people, if any of the proposals still want it, would they still want it without the parking? We don't have an appraisal on just the building, so we don't know what the fair market value is of the building. So, I mean, these are questions that I have.
I think it makes sense for the board to decide what it would like to do and then work towards achieving that. To answer your question, you can take it off the market. You don't have to accept any of the proposals, okay, especially if the board decides to go in another direction.
Right.
You don't have an offer that you've accepted. And so in terms of what is the priority. It's for the board to determine what it would like to do with that parcel, how you would like to see that developed, and then seek your bids based on what you know you want to do. So
right.
if you're now determining that you want to preserve public parking, then you have a reason to take a step back and redo your relationship with the broker and the offer that's put out there.
Okay. Ms. Chick?
Yeah, I know Larry Roman of the Planning Commission chair sent a letter at least twice, it's been in our packet, and he recommended, and I'm comfortable with this as well, canceling the listing, pull it back, get all the information, all of our ducks in a row, decide if we're going to do a lot split or an easement, determine exactly where the property lines are, because I don't think we know that exactly, and then list it, keeping the parking lot for the township or providing an easement for the whoever's going to buy it or sell the building alone. So we have to make those decisions, I think, before we can go forward with anything.
Well, I got another question then. I mean, is it possible for us right now to accept an offer with this parking easement? Is there anything preventing us from doing that?
Yeah.
At this moment? At this moment?
No. Well, we don't have that before us in the packet, that actual offer. I was anticipating that the board would just decide how if it wanted to maintain some public parking, number one, and number two, how they want to continue to hold the public parking. If you want to split the property or if you want to sell the property but negotiate an easement for a certain number of parking spots to remain. And if we sell it with an easement, we don't have to pay for the snow plow and the grass mowed, and so we'd be saving ourselves some money, but yet we have public parking set aside. So that was my thought with that. And so anyway, I'm just looking for this board to kind of think about that and see how you feel about keeping the parking.
I'd like to maintain the parking.
Okay, as an easement or split?
Easement. With an easement.
With an easement, okay. What about you, Ms.?
I would support that as well.
Easement, okay. So, all right.
I mean, the way I look at it is the property owner, if we split the property, then we'd have to get appraisal for that building. We would have to, the property owner would only have that building. At least this way with an easement, that land and that easement goes with the building.
Okay. Mr. Fink, did you have something you wanted to share with us?
There are some details that you'll have to work out. For example,
I can't hear you, sir.
You'll need to work out some details in order to get a firm offer from anyone, including how many parking spaces are you asking to have either available or reserved, and are you asking for them to be exclusive public parking spaces or just available to the public? In other words, can the owner also use those spaces? And of course, I think I heard someone mention a survey. You'll need a survey.
Right, we'll need a survey.
Then we'll have to draft easement language that gives access, but makes it clear that the new owner is responsible for the maintenance.
Okay. Well, I trust you to manage that whole negotiation when it comes to us, along with Mr. Ains.
So how do we move forward from here?
Yes. So I guess I've made a motion for the township manager to let Thomas Duke know that the board wants to keep the public parking with an easement so that we can get those offers back, whether they're still available or not. I know there were 4, now we have 5 at least. So we'll see if any of those are still viable. I know the one is still viable. So I think that will be helpful for us moving forward.
Madam Chair. Do you need an appraisal just on the building, or
no?
I wouldn't worry about that.
We don't need an appraisal.
Not yet.
Already have.
Okay.
So what's the plan? The plan is we're just going to communicate with Thomas Duke to give us the offers, but our
Yes.
preference is to allow us to have an easement to the parking.
Well, that's a requirement now, yeah.
So it's a requirement. So if someone came in and offered us $1 million and they wanted the whole thing, we would say no because we want the little bit of parking. Is that my understanding?
I think they can still present the offer.
You
We
got
just
$1
don't
million?
take it.
Well, I'm just saying. You just said,
yeah.
I'm just asking the question. I don't know if I got the answer. So what was the answer?
Perhaps just state the easement is preferred.
An easement, yes.
Okay. Thank you.
Do we need a vote on that? Okay.
Sure.
Mr. Dockett.
Well, you all know that I don't want to sell any
Been
township
around me a
property.
lot.
But if we were going to sell, which I would not vote to sell it, but if we were, this offer we have right now, if we're going to do that, we're going to split the parking off, then this person who wants to pay $100,000 for it, after we decide what we're going to do, then Mr. Duke gets the best price he can get. We don't go with this guy that wants it for $100,000. So, do you understand what I'm saying? Do you agree with me?
I'm understanding, but that's not what we're
Excuse me?
discussing. I understand, but I'm not, that's not what's presented to us right now.
Right.
What's presented to us is the easement.
I understand.
Okay.
But there's also, that's what's behind it, is they've got some guy that wants it for $100,000.
Well, I never wanted to sell it with the parking lot gone, so anyway. So we have a motion. Are we ready to vote on it?
No. So I'm still confused. I know Mr. Fink asked about, how the parking would be. Is it allocated spots or just public use? Isn't that something we need to define?
Yeah, but we don't know.
So again, if someone came in and offered $1 million, you can have the parking. Most likely, right? But if someone came in and offered us whatever, the listing price is $275, don't we want to know and tell them what we're expecting? Is, how many parking spots do we have? Again, I get confused because we bring things back to the board. I mean, in May we said we're going to sell it as is. In November we relisted it in a 4-3 vote. But yet what are we going to do? We're going to tell Thomas Duke, come with the best offer, but aren't we going to tell him what we want, at least if we're keeping the parking? I don't know. It seems confusing to me. I mean, how do we tell the purchaser that just come with your best offer, give us some of the parking, don't give us, I don't know. I just don't know the definition.
We don't ask them what they want to pay us. We set the price.
Right, we set the price and we should tell them the parking requirements.
You can have the building and the parking spots along the side of the building, everything else is ours.
That's all I'm saying. Should we not define that?
Yeah. I think so. Yeah. 80%. Ms. Manley and then Mr. Ames.
That could also change with who's buying the property. If it's going to be an office building, they're going to be there Monday through Friday from 9 to 5. They might not care if we use all the parking on the weekend. They might only use 10 spots. I mean, if it's a restaurant that might only need more spots on the weekends, I think it's going to depend on the offer and the use.
I mean, can't we give this to the DDA and have them come up with a suggestion? Can't we use the committee? Can't we use some of our committees instead of discussing it at the board of, you're a downtown development, it's in the DDA, is it not?
Yes, and
then why don't you come up with a suggestion? And then we can say yay or nay to it.
Okay.
We don't need another committee.
Well, we have the DDA.
We have the DDA.
We have the North Village.
Okay.
We don't need the DDA.
All right, we got to make a decision here. Okay.
We call the question?
Yeah, call the question.
Everybody good?
And we'll figure out the parking. We keep at least 80% of the parking. Right. Okay. Okay. Because we don't know how many spots can actually get there. You need an engineer to do that.
What number are you thinking of?
80%.
That sounds kind of high.
The township, 80%?
The township keeps 80% of the parking.
That sounds like a little bit much.
You think it's a lot?
I wouldn't go beyond 75%. May even, I mean, come on. If he's got apartments up there, and you might have 4 cars there just for the apartments, and you got some kind of business, needs a few more cars. That's going to be unreasonable to ask for 80%. Even 75 might be too much.
I say we ask the DDA to do a general parking study and kind of.
All right.
You guys
Well,
do that?
we'll come up
Call the
with
question.
Okay,
All right.
we are
Got the
going to
floor?
tell that we need the easement, and we will come up, the DDA will come up with a number.
It's 10 o'clock.
I know.
Time to go. Good?
Call the question.
We're turning into
Check.
pumpkins.
Okay.
Check. Janet,
Check.
you're voting.
No, I don't like a DDA. Well, you can make a suggestion.
80%.
Oh, 80%.
Okay. So what are we voting on?
Could you tell me?
We don't know what we're voting on.
Exactly.
That's a great question.
No.
It's
late.
The action, it's at the bottom here, but Mr. Fink threw in something I wasn't expecting about asking for a certain number of parking spots. So
Imagine that.
can we negotiate that with them?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I asked you about that a week ago.
What about the parking?
I asked you about the parking a week ago on that.
That's basically what it's saying, will be negotiated.
Okay. With the buyer to provide public parking on the parcel to be negotiated. Right now, we're just telling Thomas Duke we
You
want
need to
public
repeat it
parking.
for her,
Yeah.
for Lisa.
It's as written.
Yes.
As written with parking to be negotiated. Yes.
I don't want to muck it up a little bit, but the number of spaces is, with respective to how the parking lot is designed, right? So
Yeah.
you might say that the easement language to be approved by your attorney with review of your planner, because I could see crafting it, based on an actual area description, so that if the parking lot were redesigned for more parking, it wouldn't be tied to the number of spaces. I do think it's a good point, though, as to how many of those spaces could be used by the purchaser, et cetera. So I think we just need to draft the easement language and have it reviewed by your attorney and your planner.
Okay.
Madam Supervisor.
Yes.
What Thomas Duke was wanting back in December was some clear definition or direction from this board as to how to proceed. Their recommendation was that you tell them what your conditions were, and then they would go back to the respective parties that submitted bids and tell them what the conditions were, set a date for those conditions or offers to be received, and that then you would have equal opportunity for anyone who either had offered or wanted to offer to submit something that would meet your requirements. But they felt like we were losing interest by the prospective buyers because they were confused as to what the board wanted.
We just want an easement on the parking.
I like Mr. Lippin's suggestion.
Okay.
Can we have that by the next board meeting?
Yeah. Okay.
So now what's,
I would like Thomas Duke to get back with us. Most of those companies wanted 75 Barker because of marijuana.
well, let's get back to do we have a motion that we have to answer to, or is there a direction for, what are we doing on this?
I still believe the action requested motion at the bottom is good.
Okay, there's no percentages?
We'll let our attorney and our planner work out the details. Okay.
We good
Okay,
again?
so the exact motion has that in the bottom of it?
Yes.
The attorney and
we
the
can
planner are
add-
going to
But
work
you
out?
added
To be
additional
negotiated.
language to it.
Yeah, to be negotiated by the planner.
The action requested by the supervisor, I think, is general enough that it lets you communicate with Thomas Duke.
Yeah.
It sends a notice to any potential buyers of what you're looking for. And based on the conversation of the board, and this doesn't have to be in the motion, the manager and the planner have enough information about what you're looking for to then come back and give you some recommendations.
Okay.
So I think that the action that was originally requested accomplishes what you wanted to do tonight.
Okay.
You're not trying to make every decision tonight.
Yes, thank you.
Thank you.
I'd like to ask a question of the attorney. As when we listed it as is, where is. That's the way it's listed right now. We can change that?
You can change it.
Okay.
Okay.
That's what we wanted to know.
Okay. All right, so now.
Can we call a question?
We can call a question? Okay.
Yeah. Okay, good.
And the motion's on.
Check. Zelenak? Otto?
Yes.
Docket?
No.
Bellinger?
Yes.
Manley? Yes. Chockley?
Yes. Thank you. That passes 6-1.
I couldn't hear some of the responses. So.
Everybody's yes, but Mr. Docket. Okay. Oh boy, here we are. Employee handbook.
That's the story of my life.
Oh wow.
Oh, not always anymore.
All right. I'd like to make a motion.
You got a partner now.
To replace the harassment policy in the employee handbook with the version provided in the packet.
I'll support.
Motion by Chockley, support by Manley. Do we have discussion?
So why are these changes being recommended since we just approved the manual
Good question.
in July?
There's a lot of gobbledygook in here.
It's been cleaned up by our labor attorney.
Okay. Still has a lot of gobbledygook.
Yes.
So do we know why?
I don't know that, I don't have track changes or anything.
I mean, I was just wondering why did the attorney take it upon herself our labor attorney to make them? How did they come about?
Yeah, Mr.
Because again, we just approved the manual, and I know it's a living document, can be changed, but we just approved it in July, so I wonder what precipitated these changes.
Go ahead, Mr. Ains.
It's my recollection
Number 8.
that the board had approved the policies with some exceptions. You had not approved the PTO policy. There was some question over whether you approved or what you approved for the concealed weapons.
No, there was no. There was no.
Mr. Dockett, would you please let me finish, and then I'll go to sleep and you can finish the rest of the meeting without me.
No, you're wrong.
Okay, no. Mr. Dockett, let Mr. Ains finish.
And on the harassment policy, there seemed to be some confusion. The original intent of changing it apparently was because you wanted any female employees to feel comfortable going to someone else since you had a male as a manager.
Yeah.
And then there was discussion, well, who should that person or persons be? And she felt like there needed to be clarification so that the employees clearly would know exactly who to go see if they had that type of concern. And it would apply the opposite way if you have a female manager than the other way. So at this point, she's recommending that it be approved. The board has indicated you really don't want to spend a lot of money on attorneys, so I didn't ask her to come to explain it. But if you want further clarification, then you can table it and I'll get clarification.
I think that makes sense.
So, again, for the memo, Mr. Ains, what you just said would have been nice to have it in the memo, and we could have probably made the motion and voted. So, at least for my perspective, thank you.
Okay. The motion was by Chockley and seconded by Manley to replace the harassment policy in the employee handbook with the version provided in the packet. We need roll call on this one. Roll call.
I think my hearing is going wrong.
We know that.
Jim, I think Wayne can't hear.
Let me try that. I can't hear what she's saying.
All right. Roll call, please. Is it working? Is it working?
He may need some new ears.
It's working.
Okay.
It is working.
Your ears shut off.
It's working?
Can you hear us?
Okay.
All right.
Yep.
It's my magic.
False alarm, it's working.
All right. Roll call, please.
What are we doing?
We're
Roll calling
voting
on the, sorry, Madam
harassment
Supervisor.
policy. We're doing a roll call on the harassment policy.
The changes to the policy.
Yeah.
Zelena.
There's nothing to do with the guns.
Not a thing.
That's correct.
Not a thing.
All right.
Yes.
Gonna harass somebody with it.
Yes.
Okay.
Zelena.
Yes.
Otto.
Yes.
Bellinger.
Yes.
Chockley.
Yes.
Docket.
Yes.
Manley, yes. Chick.
Okay, thank you. That passes 7-0.
First.
I'd like to make a motion to approve the January 28th special meeting minutes.
Support.
Motion by Chockley, support by Otto. Any discussion?
Yes. I would like to ask the attorney something.
Okay, go ahead.
Our labor attorney says that she cannot tell us what we're going to talk about at a meeting. In other words, they use the MCL, you know. And we come to the meetings and we don't know what they're about till we get here. So as an attorney, what would you do in this case? If it's about labor or if it's about buying property or whatever, how can you give us a hint on the board here of what we're going to find out when we get here?
Mr. Dockett, that would be a good example of why you ought to be able to call me and say, what are we going to talk about in this closed session?
In other words, you don't think they can tell us what we're going to talk about?
In this particular case, I think I know about it, and it's my understanding you had a confidential attorney-client privilege document from your labor attorney, and to put on the agenda or to announce at the meeting the subject of that privileged communication might start to deteriorate the privilege or hurt the rights of someone else. And so it appears to me, based on the little bit I know, that this was an appropriate way for the board to go into closed session. That doesn't mean that you can't ask the manager or the supervisor or the attorney what you're going to talk about. But the purpose of a closed session is for the board to have discussions that should not take place in an open meeting. The exceptions to the Open Meetings Act are very narrow. There, as you know, you've been doing this, there are certain things, and you have to have the statutory reasons, but this was one of them.
Okay, but my problem is, I was the only one that wasn't notified, and this happens all the time. I came on Thursday and picked up my emails. There was nothing in my email on Thursday. I came back on Friday and picked up my packet. There was nothing in my packet that told me anything. And I didn't know anything about it till I got to the meeting, but everybody else got an email sent to them telling them what it was about. Now, how does that happen that everybody else is notified, but I'm not notified? That's my problem. And it happens quite often. Because I don't get email at my house. I only get the email that they send to the township. But they don't print them for me for 2 or 3 days. And when I get them, they're already out of date. So that's my problem. I'm trying to figure out how come it's all right for them to get emails, but they can't put it. But they can't put it in the agenda.
Sir, I'm pretty sure this isn't legal advice, but I think you can get those emails at your house as well.
Well, I know,
Like the rest of the-
I can't,
He
I
doesn't
don't
have a
have,
computer.
I don't have a computer. I don't know how to turn on a computer.
Okay. Well, you just have to come down every day. We can have Jennifer
I
print
come
them
down every day,
day.
but you don't, when they're not printed, I don't get them.
Well, we could have Jennifer print them every day.
Communication, communication,
Well,
communication.
After 3 years.
Let's get better at it.
All right. So all in favor, say aye.
So there's no, so you're saying there's no way for them to say this MCL 15268-8-H. They can't put what that means?
I'm saying, I'm not saying what they can't do. I'm saying that, in my opinion, it was appropriate for her to have you handle it this way.
But I'm gonna, if I had a copy of what this number was, then would I know?
You could look at the statute, but that is the section of the Open Meetings Act for one of the exemptions. I could email it to you if you'd like.
Okay.
Better print that out.
Yeah, it's on Jennifer's wall, too.
I'm not, she doesn't work on Friday.
Right, she doesn't.
So I miss out on stuff.
So I do have one on the minutes. Were members of the community present?
For the special meeting?
I don't recall.
I don't.
In the beginning?
So.
I didn't think anybody was there.
I don't think anybody
You think
was
anybody
there.
was out there?
Because we all went downstairs.
Yeah, we all went
Correct.
downstairs.
I mean,
All right, let's cross off members of the community. Okay, so my amended motion is to adopt the minutes of the special meeting of January 28th as amended.
Support.
Motion by Chockley, support by Bellinger. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Anyone opposed? Okay, thank you. That passes 7-0. I'll make a motion to approve the January 28th minutes of the regular board meeting.
I'll support.
Okay, motion by Chockley, support by Otto. Do we have any changes to these?
The 28th.
28th, yep.
Yes, I have a question.
Okay.
Page 1, on the front bottom left-hand side.
Okay.
Very, very last bullet.
Okay.
Discuss purchase offer 75 Barker, which expires February 12th.
Right.
Are we sure about that, February 12th?
I discussed it with him, and he's extended it another month. So.
Who has?
Mr. Munger.
Oh, is that what we're talking about?
That's what the dot is.
Okay, I thought this was Duke, sorry.
No.
Because we just renewed it for 6 months.
Yeah.
That's what confused me. How was I supposed to know that that was him? That you were talking about him?
We discussed a purchase offer for 75 Barker Road, which will expire on February 12th.
I know, but I didn't know who you discussed it with.
Well, we don't need excruciating detail in here. I mean, really. Okay, so we have a motion by Chockley, support by, do we have any more changes, by the way?
I do understand the question. Basically, it sounds as though our contract with Duke is going to expire in a sense, because it's not clear. That's basically, I believe,
What number is that on?
the very front page, very bottom line on the left.
Oh, okay.
It's just a bullet.
It's just a bullet.
Oh.
Yeah, it's a purchase offer. It's not the contract with Thomas Duke.
Yep.
Yeah, are we good?
I'm good with that.
Okay, any more changes? I mean, suggested changes. All right, all in favor, say aye. Aye. Anyone opposed? Thank you, that passes 7-0. Now we're moving on to the trustee liaison reports. I'll make a motion to accept the trustee liaison reports.
Support.
I want 2 pulled out.
Motion by Chockley, support by Bellinger. Okay. What do you want? Which ones do you want pulled out?
Number 4, number 3.
Clerk?
The clerks, okay.
I want to pull out mine.
I do have a quick question. Is it really Tetra Tech? Or is that a typo on
For
your
the community center, yeah.
Okay.
Are we ready?
Yep.
We're ready.
Okay, number 3 is talking about the South Lyon millage. The clerk says that there's not much on the millage for May. But the millage for the election for March 10th is that the Washtenaw Community College millage is on the ballot for $17,500,000. That's for the first year. And it's good for 10 years, so that's $175 million that's on the ballot for 10 years. So I'm asking people to think about the $175 million. It's a lot of money. So when you go in to vote, think it over before you pull the lever. Thank you. And I got number 6.
Who's that?
Well, can I respond to that?
Ms. Manley wants to respond.
So as far as the May election, what I meant for a small election was small in number of people. So, and actually South Lyon just filed their papers today, so there will be a May election for sure. And yeah, that's what I meant by small, not like small in dollar amount, small in amount of people voting.
From Northfield Township.
I thought I clarified that. I said,
okay.
I said no, I'm not talking about that date.
Okay.
I said I'm talking about the presidential election.
There's
Excuse
something on
me.
the ballot.
Yeah, I understand.
Okay. But you gave me the good lead in that there will be a May election for sure. So.
Excuse me?
You did give me a good lead in for the May election. So.
Oh, okay.
Okay.
Oh, okay. Number 6.
Who's that? We don't, numbers ours quite like yours.
I'm sorry.
Yeah. I think usually it's the first Tuesday.
This is the Parks and Rec.
Okay.
Tom has on here about the number 1 was a concern about the retention pond. She has on here the concern about stormwater, the concern about the walking trail. But my concern is the question regarding ingress and egress. I have never got an answer on that. I wonder why. It's not even on here.
Okay.
That's it for me.
Okay. Yes.
So I just wanted to comment and let the people know that we are moving to a new credit card processing company, and this is in the report. We're going to Point and Pay. We did it after the taxes were due because it is a slightly higher fee to our people that pay by credit cards. And again, the township does not receive any of those fees. It is to provide a convenience to our people, but it is changing the fee amount going in March. I think we're doing it March 4th.
Is the 3% normally merchant fees? Is that what it's considered?
Yeah, most likely.
To the banks?
Yeah. I mean, again, I just want to be clear, it's not the township charging the fees, it's the credit company, and we just do it as a convenience. I do have one other item, Madam Chair, that I'd like to, it's going back to the fund balance, and I forgot to pull this one out in our consent agenda, and it's the one with the graphs. So I'm going to back people. So in looking at it, when we get to all other revenue, now I'm on page 14 of 16. Yep, it's the one with the graphs. Yep. Want to share this one with me?
Yeah.
Okay. So it is page 14 of 16. And when we go to all other, under revenues, that includes the fees for the marijuana applications. And I actually have a request that I'd like to have that pulled out as a separate line item. So that means the graphs would change. So this is again on page 14 of 16. So I was just wondering.
Okay, that makes sense. Just tell Yvette.
Well, I wanted to run it by the board before I had Ms. Patrick, our controller, make that change.
Okay.
Because when I looked at it, I was like, whoa, what's that? And then, so, anyway, I will then ask Yvette to make that, Ms. Patrick, or actually Starbucks, to make that change.
Okay. Yeah.
Thank you. My apologies for getting that out of order. I just pulled it and wanted to talk about that.
Thank you. Okay. So, all in favor of accepting the trustee liaison reports, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Anyone opposed? Thank you. That passes 7-0. Announcements. Do we have anybody with? I made my announcements earlier. So, anybody else have an announcement? No. Okay.
Yeah, there was.
Second call to the public. Okay. Now it's second call to the public. If anyone would like to come and speak to us, keep your comments to 3 minutes or less. Turn it on, hold it up to your mouth, and state your name, your address, and feel free.
Dale Brewer, 1154A East Shore Drive. Just a quick comment. When you're looking at the parking easements in the building use will have a required number of parking spaces depending on the use. The use is changed, and when the planner reviews it, he will determine the number of parking spaces. So I'm sure he'll take it into consideration, but it needs to be looked at. It's not something that you can just arbitrarily pull out of the air. Thank you.
Just a comment. We did eliminate the requirement for any particular parking spaces in the downtown. So it's a little different for us. Anyone else?
Mike Chicella, 7789 Sutton Road. A couple things. One is in your stack of studies, I don't see any appraisals on that property, and I don't know how you know 700 and some odd thousand is the right number.
Okay.
Is there an appraisal?
There was one initially.
An independent appraisal that we paid for, not someone here just saying this is what it's worth.
Yeah.
No, we paid for it.
Does the board want me to address the question?
Go ahead, since we don't have too many members of the public here. Go ahead.
The board had me get an appraisal amount from the appraiser that did the work at the 75 Barker. However, I had told the board at the time that it was not a thick document like you mentioned. It was a amount he was giving us as an estimate, and it was not something he charged us for. And the board asked me to go back to him and see if he would be willing to do a full-blown appraisal. And so far I have not received a response to that request. Now at the time he had indicated one of his concerns was that there were not comparables that he could find in his quick review that really said exactly what, like another piece of land similar to that. The earlier time when we went out for requests for proposals on 75 Barker, and the board had me put out a formal request for proposals, we got 0. And then at that time was when our former attorney, Mr. Burns, approached the one appraiser who was willing to help us out that way. But it doesn't seem to be a lot of people out there willing to do this for us. But if you have any names, I'd be happy to have you let me know.
Okay, thank you.
David Summers and Company. They do commercial appraisals. And I would just suggest that you have something in writing, because you're held to a higher standard. This is not a willing buyer, willing seller deal. You have a fiduciary responsibility just for yourself. S-O-M-E-R-S Company. I've used them in the past. I have no relationship other than contracting them for doing property appraisal. The other thing is on the bonds for the waste treatment plant, if you're going to do general obligation bonds, you need to, I'm assuming you're sending a notice out to everybody in the community, right?
We will need to, yeah.
And the other thing is you ask the people in Lyons Township how they feel that are not on the sewer system having to pay for the sewer system. Because they did go bankrupt. They court ordered everybody pay. And so why I think I would recommend that you do the revenue bonds and that it's just focused on the people that used it versus giving it to everybody in the community. Didn't go over very well in Lyons Township.
Lyon? Okay. Okay, good to know. Thank you. Okay.
Thank you.
Thank
Appreciate
you.
your time.
Okay. Anyone else like to share right now? Come on up.
Jim Nelson, 7777 Sutton. I'd like to underline what Mr. Chickella just got at and what our township manager just confirmed. The poorness of the decision-making process is underlined in the fact that the appraiser could not find a comparable piece of property against which to appraise the price of what you're giving away for the first offer. You have an incomparable piece of property, one of a kind, and you're giving it away for a song.
Thank you. Anyone else?
My name is Michael Reppa. I reside at 8002 Fair Oaks Drive, and I'd like to talk about the proposed water treatment plant. I would encourage some of the members of the board to visit the water treatment property and look at the proposed site, look at the amount of trees that would be removed, the access road that's proposed, the type of fencing, landscaping, and color that would diffuse some kind of impact of this large structure. I don't know how this would be constructed if all the heavy equipment would come off of Lehman Road. Right now, Fair Oaks Drive is a private lane maintained by the residents only. Part of it is in Green Oak Township, part of it is in Hamburg. So all my neighbors are concerned if any equipment comes down that road, who is going to be liable to maintain it and fix it. We would like to know the tentative time frame of this construction, how long it would take. And if anything came down our road, how long this would be going on. Thank you for listening to me.
Thank you.
Ann Hunter, 8176 Fair Oak Drive, and I'm the one with the problems with the microphone. I do appreciate all the work that's gone into the water treatment plant, and I understand I've been told many times you've been working on it for over 30 years. But somehow not knowing any of you or having any history with this, the phrase, "we've done our due diligence," doesn't feel sufficient to me. So as for coming in at the 11th hour with our concerns, when we bought the property right next door to the treatment plant, we were aware that the plant was there. We took a tour. Dan Willis was very nice and gave us a full tour of the plant. We asked neighbors and the gun club and everything nearby if they felt effects of it, and we were all given the impression that it wasn't a problem. In summer, we don't even see the building because of all the trees. So the way I found out about this was walking my own property and seeing pink flags. And so I started making phone calls to find out who was putting pink flags on one of the trees. And found out that's how I found out that this tank issue was coming up again. So my suggestion for a remedy for those of us who are newer to the area would be to use your website better. The newest documents that I could find on there was like 2016, I think. If there are new drawings, why aren't they on the website? If there are I mean, the treatment plant has its own page, and I've checked it several times for updates, and there's nothing there. So thank you, and I do appreciate all the work that you long-termers have gone in, because just reading what I've been reading in the recent days, not easy. Thank you.
Thank you.
Jessica Meissner again, and I kind of want to address the same thing. I'll make it very short. I know we're all tired. I hope everybody understands that we want, one of the first things I did when I heard about this was call the EPA. I was concerned about the pollution. So, you know, we don't want to, we're not trying to stand in the way or cause a problem, you know, of some kind, but speaking to communication, when we asked about the pink flags, and Dad said, oh, they're looking at building a tower right here. And I said, oh, well, we would like to know more about that. And started asking questions, and I said, you know, I gave you our number when we first moved in. You know, we would at least like to know if somebody's coming along the property line and hanging flags, can you at least let us know? And he hadn't. And he said, well, we didn't think you'd care. You already live next to a wastewater treatment plant. So I called Mr. Ains, and I hate to do this because you were very kind on the phone, shared a lot of information, but when I called Mr. Ains, I was told that, oh, they've been looking at it for 30 years. I don't think they're going to build it. So we thought it wasn't really a thing. So we weren't reaching out, you know, trying to find out more information when we were told it wasn't, you know, it'd been talked about for 30 years and they're probably never going to build it. So we have tried to get information. We were recommended to call Tetra Tech. I called the number on the latest plan that we had. That gentleman doesn't work there anymore. Mr. Ains gave me another person's name. I called that person. They never called back. Finally, I called the main line at Tetra Tech, got two completely different names, left voicemails for them, only to find out they're not going to answer our questions after all. So it's taken us a long time to even find out there's a meeting we ought to be involved in. So I am sorry, but I really appreciated Ms. Zelnick's comment about communication. And I don't think you were referring to this specifically, but that's really appreciated. I know you guys are trying to work on making that communication clearer and more available to the public. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Anyone else?
Faith Wheeler, 371 Grove Street, Whitmore Lake, Horseshoe Lake. I'm just going to comment that I'm sorely disappointed. It pays for you to make this decision. I've asked the question 3 times at 3 different meetings as to why we can't have this presented to the township for a vote, since you have such a split on the thing and a vehement split as to what should be and should not be. I would like to really know more in depth about what we originally had and why you so much decided that that wasn't a good thing to have. And even though we spent, I don't know, $65,000, $75,000 on it, just waive it and do what you think is best for, I think, Main Street, the commercial part of town, and not for all of the people that are in Northfield Township. But my other concern was also that I don't think that you met your fiscal responsibility, because I didn't hear anything in the beginning about how it was appraised. I didn't hear anything either for Barker Road. And then I heard one of you say that you don't even know for sure where the boundaries are. That's got to be kind of confusing when you're presenting this building to be sold. And I would think that you would go out and get an appraisal, telling the people that's doing the appraisal, this is what we want for this piece of property, tell us what it's worth. And have that when you come, instead of having the person come to you and say, oh, I'll give you $100,000, and find out later you could have got it in $175,000 or whatever it may be. That's not the way you do business. I know that if you were selling a car, you would say, this is what I want for it, and the guy would say, oh, I'll give you $500, and you'd take it. That's not the way you do business, okay? And am I right, Mr. Doggett? Okay. So those are kind of some of the kind of things that I'm really concerned about, and I do hope that in the interim, while we're waiting for some confirmations on different things for the village, that you would reconsider what the people want. I don't know what it would mean to you, except that you may not get what you want, that to go to the people and ask them what they would like to have up there. Because I'm going to tell you, you're wrong. They want, you can't take 5 acres and put egresses in and egresses out and put a retention pond on it and have anything left for people to use for a park. It is ridiculous. Would you have the 4th of July people sitting in your front yard? Because that's what you're going to have. You're going to have a piece of property the size of your yard that you're going to want to put 300-400 people on the 4th of July. When that's all said and done and they come down there to see their park.
10 seconds,
You think
Ms.
it's going to be
Wheeler.
a park that they're going to want? No, it's not.
Okay, thank you. Anyone else?
Marissa Prushian, 32 Shrum. I'll make it quick. I was really, really pleased with the outcome of the meeting tonight. We've spent the last year, more or less, discussing marijuana and marijuana-based issues, where some of these, maybe perhaps more important issues, got put on the back burner with no fault of your own. So I was really pleased with the outcome of everything you guys did tonight. I think you're making really good forward motion, and I'm really glad to see it. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Anyone else? Okay. Seeing no one, I'll move to board member comments. Do we have any comments at this late hour? Ms. Bellinger?
Thank you for sharing some insights as public comment. There's a couple good questions. I also am interested. I will walk the area and look at the situation with the trees for sure, and maybe screening, visibility screening. Referring to the basin, but also the question about heavy equipment up and down the road. I thought that was a good question, a good point. So I would like to explore that a little further. And yeah, what else did I want to say on here? Yep, I'm pleased overall with the meeting tonight as well. Like I said, thank you once again. And again, I can't thank Dale Brewer enough for his respect and love for the veterans. And he's a gem, and you guys are fortunate to have him in your community. Thank you, Dale.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Dockett, do you have anything?
Well, I'm not a gentleman, but I am a veteran. Yes, that's not true. I wanted to catch this misprint here on this open bills. It says date run 2/12/20 to 2/12/20.
Oh, the date wrong.
Maybe we should.
Well, or maybe not.
Maybe we didn't pay many bills.
Yeah, we did joke about that, didn't we, yesterday?
maybe we better change that.
Okay.
Your beeper thing.
Pardon?
Turn your beeper thing on.
Oh, my beeper thing.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, sorry. Okay, great.
No, I don't have anything, except I'm a little disappointed with some of the stuff that happened tonight, but that's the way it goes.
It's the cookie crumbles.
Okay, thank
Good
you.
thing I have my partner. Good thing I have my partner.
Yeah, right. Ms. Chick?
No, go ahead.
Ms. Chick?
To Ms. Wheeler, we actually had the park area, I know you're not going to think it's much, increased to 6.5 acres to accommodate for roads. So there will not be roads coming out of the 5 acres or parking. Yeah, there will not be a retention pond. We have been told that we will not need one. And can I ask a question of the audience? You're from Green Oak, correct? No, the people in, yes, okay. So when Green Oak, I know that they had, this went before their planning commission. Did they notify anybody in your area that, that the storage, the basin was going to go in, and you had no information from Green Oak at all? Have you gotten any information from Green Oak at all about the basin going in?
The only thing we were notified about was the public hearing coming up.
Okay.
So we reached out to Green Oak, and then they did start telling us what the, we called them and they told us what dates it was going to be on the meeting and put us on the list so that we would receive email copies of the agendas.
Oh, okay.
So they did.
Okay.
Okay.
Okay. So.
Reached out to them when we found out that, I mean, the township rights are kind of confusing. We live in Green Oak, are you in Green Oak?
Okay.
You know, but the rest of the road is in the Emirates.
Right.
But we're affected by
Yeah, that's true.
So as a point of reference, when Green Oak has any kind of a big development or anything going in, do they send out letters to everybody in the community?
If it's a public hearing, yes.
Oh, so not, but they don't notice you that's a developer other than a public hearing?
No.
Okay.
Well,
Put on an email list.
Okay.
Receive agendas, and so they send us the agenda.
Oh, okay, that's helpful. All right, perfect. Well, I'm just thinking for communication purpose, that's a good idea for us. So,
okay.
Thank you.
Ms.
We would have loved to have known when we reached out.
Okay.
You know, to be able to find the agendas when
It's too late, you're done? Yeah. Okay. Ms. Otto didn't have any comments?
Sure, I do.
Ms. Zelnok?
You know, what's a few more minutes?
It's bedtime.
We're tired.
I know. So the website, that is key. Sometimes it's better to have no information than old and incorrect information.
Yep.
And, you know, it's been one of our items since 2017, so. And then the next one is, you know, when you bring numbers to me, I need more detail than I currently get, especially when I'm making a $6 million decision.
Okay. Thank you. Ms. Manley? Okay, well, I want to thank you all for sticking it out tonight, and we'll try to do some better with our website. So those were good suggestions. All right, I move to adjourn. Motion by Chockley, support by Bellinger. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Thank you. Oh yeah, we got to sign something here.